like to welcome everyone to this first regular meeting of the Pike County Fiscal Court on January 15, 2019. We had originally asked Brother Billy Compton to be here to say the invocation. He's not here. I would like to ask Brother Bobby Mullins to come forward and say the invocation. You can do it wherever you want to.
Let's bow our heads, please. God, our great eternal Father, we're thankful, Lord, to be able to gather in your presence one more time. Father, we pray, Lord, that you'd look down and give us wisdom and knowledge today that we could do your will and not our will. Father, we pray that we will be able to make decisions that will be pleasing to you. Bless each and every one that's here. Father, we ask that you bless all of our people of Pike County. Bless all of our county employees and those that's out working. Lord, please keep them safe. Lead us and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I would ask the clerk of the court to please call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Here.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
Here.
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. And something that we want to make sure that we do is we want to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by a veteran. And as a matter of personal privilege, I would like to ask my dad, who is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran of the Vietnam War, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first matter on the agenda today is approval of minutes of the previous court meetings of December 18th, December 27th, January 3rd, and January 7th. Have the members had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Were there any corrections or amendments or modifications that needed to be made to your knowledge? No. If there are no questions, I would move for approval of the minutes of the Pike County Fiscal Court for December 18th, December 27th, January 3rd, and January 7th, 2019. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment or questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is acknowledgement of receipt of the Pike County Clerk's budget for 2019. I would like to ask Pike County Clerk Rhonda Taylor to come forward and have a seat here in front of the court. And Rhonda, before you sit down, do you have a copy of the proposed budget that we could distribute to the members? And Greg, could you pass those forward, please? All right, thank you.
And a copy of a little report that we do in our office about distribution that the court gets.
Right. The court stand at ease for just a moment while these are distributed.
take these also. Distribute those. It's extra. Thank you.
And Clerk Taylor, let's go ahead and start. Has everyone had a chance to, there's 3 documents that have been handed out. Has everyone received those? The first item is the general term order, which is the budget that you've submitted. And I would just ask the county treasurer, have you had an opportunity, Mr. Stacy, to review this proposed budget that's been submitted by the clerk's office?
I haven't had a chance to look at it before, but I don't see any problems with it. I mean, just looking over it, there's.
All right, the matter before the court is the acknowledgement of the Pike County Clerk budget for the calendar year 2019. Is there a motion for acknowledgement of the county clerk's budget? We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. All right. And would you go ahead, Madam Clerk, and explain to us exactly what we have here in front of us? You've given us some financial documents as well as a document. You said the 2550 report.
2550 report is a report that the state generates to us because they pay our bills, so to speak. We get purchase orders. I mean, we send them to them. They write out a check for all of our vendors.
No, which document is that? Is it this document?
That is the MARS report, financial system report. I'll put the budget out of the way and we'll discuss that in a few minutes. The other thing that you have is just a little something that we do in-house, and it's the 25% distribution that our office sends up to the court every month based on what we take in and your all's share of it. I've got it broke down by month, how much that, you guys get. So on the average, if you look at it, probably about, I'm going to say about $22,000 a month on the average is what we send up to you guys. I mean, it fluctuates. I see that the highest amount at one time was close to $35,000 for 1 month, and the lowest amount seems like maybe to be $20,000. So it fluctuates, give or take a little, depending on what the revenue is that's brought into our office.
One question, just looking at this, is it shows in the month of July there was only $13.75 generated, and in May of 2018, $7.50. Can you explain why there's that much of a disparity between the other 10 months of the year?
That was an additional deposit. Probably something that came in. So it was additional deposit. Maybe could have been maybe a $20-some check that came in later after we closed for that month or something. So altogether, last year, the clerk's office itself sent $330,567.02 to the court, and possibly, if finances, which they were down, just due to the decline of people that are in our county now, you know, like I said, our economy. This is to help you guys kind of make an estimate, a projection about when you make your budget out, what's going to be coming to you from us.
That's very helpful, and we appreciate you doing that for us. And do you know if the clerk's office would have these documents for the last 4 years that we could get?
Yeah.
And if you could get those to Mr. Stacy, because we're going to start working on the proposed budget that I have to submit here in the next 3 weeks. Once we've made some other decisions, because I'm going to try to get the proposed budget for the fiscal court to the members of the court well before the deadline, so that they can have a chance to look at it and make any modifications. And we appreciate you giving us that.
Well, I'm going to tell you something else. If you'll notice up here on the general term order, do you see the figures that were estimated for 2017, 18? But you could go back to the previous term order, and it'll go back, you know, to 16 and 17 and vice versa. You see these amounts in 17 projected was $1,557,505. It's in the main top right here.
So it looks like your projection.
Okay.
So your actual receipts in 2017 were $1.557 million.
No. But that's a whole different ball game. We can discuss it if you want to later. I'm just trying to make a point about these budgets. When I came in, these were how I was taught to do these, okay? These are totally overstated. Pike County is nowhere near what these projected numbers are. They are numbers that have been handed down from term to term to term to term to term. You guys are facing a bigger challenge than you ever dreamed of. Now, these new projected numbers that I've given you for this term, they're more to realistic. Actually, it may even be over projected slightly, because last year we only took in $1,040,000. That's what the clerk's office's part was. I've got all that for you to help you all make good decisions.
Let me ask you a question, just so the people will understand, because the people in the county can't see these. And what you've given us in your proposed budget that we've acknowledged is, it says, whereas the receipts to the 75% account, which is the money that goes to the clerk's office, for the calendar year 2017 was budgeted at $1.557 million. And in the 2018 calendar year, people need to understand that the clerk's office and the sheriff's office operate on a calendar year, whereas the fiscal court and the jail operate on a fiscal year that runs from July 1 to June 30th.
Yes, and ours runs from January to January. Same
as the sheriff. And in 2018, your budgeted amount was $1,696,567. Where did that number come from?
That was a number that it would take to run the office like it really needs to be ran. But without supplement money and stuff to go with it, you'll never get to that.
So
that gives you the shortfall.
So the county clerk's budget last year was right at $1.7 million, and the county clerk took in $1,040,000.
Correct.
So it's almost $650,000 overstated. Mm-hmm. We've had the same kind of problem with what we've had to deal with, because Mr. Stacy came in a very difficult situation, and the budget that the county is operating in was basically for 3 years a cut and paste budget, where I think Mr. Stacy told me that the prior treasurer basically did the current budget that the county's operating under in one day or one evening. So we've got the same situation where it's clear that we're facing the same problems you are, and we recognize that, and we appreciate you bringing that to our attention. You can go ahead and finish.
Well, this was my first term. This is the way I was taught to do it. And every time we would sit, my bookkeeper and I, we'd sit with each other. I said, there's no way. But I was told, you know, this is the way we need to do it. But it's not the way we need to do it. I think this is why the state and the county and all of our local offices are in trouble. These budgets are way over padded. And I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying it, but it's just the truth. It's unrealistic. These things are just unrealistic. The money does not come back into our county or even the state like it used to. Things are down. We're just in financial trouble all the way around.
Let me just follow up on that. And we've got a list, if anybody in the public would like to see it, I'd be happy to share it with you. We have a list of what the county's budget was. 2001 fiscal year, the county budget was about $59 million. And this year, the budget we're operating under is about $34.5 million. So it's down from 59 to 34. That's going to continue down. The budget that I'll present will be somewhere probably around $33 million. And you're absolutely correct about what we're seeing. We had a situation this past week when I made this statement in the prior court meeting that after the payroll was made on December 27th, that the county only had $50,000 in the road fund and about $50,000 in the general fund. And a former magistrate raised a question. Commissioner Tackett and I went up to the treasurer's office, and we wanted to get to the bottom of this. What that person was referring to was the fact that there was $126,000 that had been budgeted for that district's road lot for the remainder of the year. But I don't think that they understood that what's been budgeted, there's a difference between what you put in a budget and what actually is in the bank.
True.
And you've had the same situation in that you can estimate, you can put a budget, you know, we could do a $100 million budget for Pike County next year. That doesn't mean we're going to get that revenue. So we recognize the situation that you're in. The sheriffs face similar problems, and we appreciate what you've done. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. And I do think the people of the county need to realize when they see some of these numbers from prior budgets that they're not accurate. And I think it's our responsibility as elected officials that when we put these numbers together, that they're accurate, that they, to the best of our ability, accurately reflect what the county's revenue situation or the clerk's revenue situation is. And we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I know when you guys make your budget, you're going to estimate that you're going to get what it is that I say that I'm giving you, and you're going to send that on to the state, and they're going to estimate that you're giving them that. You know what I mean? And it's not true. So, but now I want to discuss about no supplement money. I understand that you don't have it right now, and that's fine. I can make do for a month or two. However, when you guys get ready to make your new budget, the clerk's office cannot function without supplement money. It just can't. The only way that it can is to do another layoff, close offices out in the county, period. I mean, we're just going to have the main county seat office, and pay cuts. I'm already doing pay cuts in this budget I've submitted to you, and I'm doing a few layoffs also, but it's going to take more than what I've actually submitted to keep us afloat. We're a lot like the solid waste. We were not designed to carry the load that we do without the supplement money. Now, a lot of people say the previous clerk got supplement money, and she did, and she gave it back. She gave back what she didn't use out of it. A lot, but on the average, she would get $200-some-thousand a year. Now, our shortfall, which I told you about, from what we had budgeted, that's where a lot of that would come in at. It would take that amount to square us up at the end of a term. So if you got $220,000 at least a year, you do that by 4 years, that would make up for your shortfall. Our office is in trouble. And I'm coming before you guys, you know, to ask you for help, to consider what it is that you can do for us to help us before I have to take such drastic steps. I don't like to have to make these tough decisions, but sometimes tough decisions are called for, and you have to do what you have to do when you're elected to manage the people's monies, keep them out of debt, give them services, the things that you need to do to the best of your ability. And to be quite honest with you, our office is pretty much crippled right now without supplement money. So please keep that in mind when you make your next budget that you have to submit to take effect in July. I'm going to do everything that I can right now to keep us afloat. You do know that we had a shortfall. It's not that it was just unpredicted. It was on the front page of the newspaper, and it really sounded a lot, bad as it sounded. It is what it is. You cannot control the money that walks into these offices. You just can't. All you can do is make an estimate what you think's going to come in. It may come in, it may not. You may get more than what you think, but in November, like I said on the last at the last special court meeting, it didn't come in. It just didn't. Everything was budgeted for and under budgeted so that we could stay on task, and that's just one of those things that happen that may never happen again. And I'm asking the court if they would please cover that $30,000, because the clerk's office just don't have it. I personally don't have it, and it is what it is. And I know you're not going to be able to give us supplement money, but if you could please cover that, and so we could square up with the state when it's all said and done. We've still got a few bills out that'll be coming in and what have you, but the average will be about the $30,000. So please take that into consideration also.
I would like to just follow up on this, because this is going to be sort of dovetail into what we've talked about in the last two meetings that we've had since this court's been in.
Okay.
We would ask that you prepare a detailed report for the court on how this supplement money will be spent. Now, if there's a way that we can help the clerk's office, we will, but I think it's also important that the people who are listening, and later today, the treasurer this morning, the treasurer's going to give us an update. He's done a reconciliation of the county's budget through the first two quarters. And for instance, the general fund for the county is down about 10%, well, 9% below what had been estimated. The budgeted revenue for the general fund was $10,961,000. Halfway through the year, we've received $4.5 million. So if that continues, we're looking at a $1.6 million in below, and you're talking that yours is down. Just the general fund alone is on pace to be $1.6 million below what was estimated. Let me back up. $1.9 million below what was estimated. Now, there could be some things that change that depending on how the occupational tax collections come in and so forth. And we're going to go through this report here in a few minutes with the treasurer. And you're correct that some of these numbers in these budgets were just overly optimistic, or more like, a kid getting a Sears Christmas catalog, the Christmas catalog, and going through and making a wish list, as opposed to what's reality. We're looking at a very, very bleak situation in that right now this mid-year reconciliation shows that expenditures and revenue are about running equal. So we're not running a huge deficit right now. But you also need to understand that we had, in this budget, there was $1 million, this so-called surplus is plugged into that. You also have $358,000 that was reimbursed from the 911 board that we've received so far. So what's holding this budget, the expenditures and revenue in line, are one-time non-recurring revenues that we're not going to be able to count on next year. And if you take out the one-time carry forward, the one-time reimbursement, we're looking at a very substantial shortfall in the current budget if that money was not there. When we do the next budget, we're looking at a minimum shortfall, and this is preliminary, but a minimum shortfall 1.1 million would be, right now, my educated opinion or guess, because we only have half of our revenue data in. We'll have more information in a couple weeks when we get the coal severance for the third quarter and when we get the occupational tax. But right now, we're looking at a shortfall of over $1 million. And I'm not going to give you or anyone else any false hopes. I'm not going to make, one thing I've not done in this job is I've not made promises about what we can and can't do. That wouldn't be fair. And the commissioners have not made any promises on that. So if you'll put something together, we'll look at it. But I'm not optimistic that we're going to be able to find any money for the clerk's office. As you know, we've already made the decision to lay off part-time workers, substantial number, to try to save money. And when the jailer comes up, he's going to, Mr. Morris is going to detail a plan that we've worked with him, that Commissioner Williamson's worked on, that we think will save the county a lot of money. We're doing everything we can. We've parked take-home vehicles. We're, getting rid of surplus property that's been a weight around the county. But right now, this court's been in office for a week and a day, and I think we've already started making some positive business-minded decisions. And if we can do something to help the clerk's office, we will. I'm not optimistic about that, and I don't envy your position, but I suspect that the position that we're in is probably far worse, particularly in light of Commissioner Mullins' testimony here in front of us last week and what we know with solid waste, and I'll be talking about that here in a few minutes. I was over at the landfill yesterday for a while and over in the county road maintenance garage. We have some significant problems that we're going to have to address. You're welcome to come before the clerk, to come before the court at any time. You have to excuse me, I've got a little bit of a sore throat. But you can come before the court at any time. We'll be happy to bring you up to date on where we are on the budget. I'm sure that some of the commissioners probably have a question. Do you have any questions or comments on this issue? Commissioner Robertson.
You want us to consider your next budget when we do ours, right?
Yes.
But right now, you need the 30,000 to make it even out for this past year.
Yes, somewhere in that neighborhood, right at it. Might be a few dollars over, a few dollars under, but right in that neighborhood.
Okay.
We'll get with the treasurer and see where we are, but
I think the Department of Local Government will be getting in contact with you guys, because I've been in contact with them, and they said, this distribution, this 25% that you guys get, I think they're probably possibly put a hold on it. So you may not get it. I'm not really 100% sure yet. I've been dealing with them.
Well, let me put this in perspective. If that $300,000 were to be withheld, that would result in immediately we would have to take steps to make cuts, and we may have to make.
Not just the last month.
Okay.
20,258.33.
So you're thinking DLG may withhold that money?
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, it was an option that they're going to talk to you guys about.
We've not heard from DLG, so
Well, they're still working on it at this point, but I'm sure, our books just closed the other day as far as for the month, and we're waiting on the last few scraggler bills to come in before we get an actual amount. So the possibility they may be contacting you, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see where it goes. But take that into consideration. I mean, they may hold it. I don't know. And you may get it and have to turn around and give it back. I don't know how it works. I don't know what steps that they will recommend. But there is a possibility that you might not get that 20-some thousand, and then you may. I don't know. We've never been in this situation before, because the court had always supposedly, whether they were obligated to or not, supposed to have covered any shortfalls. I was told when I first come in that any shortfalls you had would be personally liable for it. However, since I've been dealing with the Department of Local Government, they tell me that it depends. If it was something that you personally did, I guess to embezzle money or something like that, that does happen. People have done that before. I'm sure they wouldn't cover it, but something that you couldn't control, like in November, you know, the revenue just knocked down so badly that he said they would work with me and with you all to reach an agreement.
We'll get with them. We've not heard from the Department of Local Government. Once we do, we'll be happy to get back with you. I need to talk to the treasurer, see where we are. We need to get some guidance from the Department of Local Government on that issue, and then we'll get back in touch with you on it.
You were talking about a statement about how the supplement money would be used. It's pretty much for wages, because with these branch offices and with the size of our county and the number of employees that it takes to actually make the clerk's office function is where that supplement money comes in. We have double and triple the workload of a lot of counties. We're one of those 12 bigger ones that have the bigger population. So therefore, you know, some counties may only have 2,500 people in their county, so they don't have the amount of work that 60-some thousand people would generate. You know what I mean? There's more deeds to file, more vehicles to license, more people for voter registration, more marriage license, and so on and so forth. It's like a domino effect. The more you got, the more it's going to take. So that's where that's where that supplement money comes into play, because, you know, you have to file taxes on people, compensation on people, unemployment on people, health insurance on people, give them their wages. So that's where the amount, but I can put that in a written request for you.
We just need something to document our records, and if you could, you know, give us, without the supplement, give us something that shows what the net impact to the clerk's office would be. We are very, very cognizant of the problems you're facing. Yeah. If there's a way we can help, we will.
Well, I appreciate it.
And at this point, I don't know that we are in a position where we can say one way or the other, but
I understand that. This is new to you all, and I mean, you've not even had time to digest all this.
Well,
and I would like to say that I do appreciate not making promises that you can't keep.
Let me say this, and a lot of people, the people in the county don't know, this court, before we took office, we spent literally hundreds of hours going through each different department, going over budgets, looking at various cost-saving measures, because we knew what we were going to face when we came in, that we were looking at a substantial shortfall. So even though we're probably more knowledgeable than any new court that's ever set in Pike County, some of the problems that we're facing are unique. They've never occurred before in modern history in the county. I mean, you probably would have to go back to before the coal boom to look at some of the, and of course, county government's changed over that period of time. The implementation of solid waste, you know, additional requirements for the jail. You've got a lot more miles in the county road system than we've ever had. So all those things add to the cost to run county government. So we'll get back with you on this, and I'll talk to the treasurer about it, and then we'll take it up at a later court meeting.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ron.
The next matter on the agenda is Pike County Jailer Brian Morris. Brian, would you like to come on up and bring any of your staff with you?
He got to the clerk and then he back to you. I was looking at her copy, but and I kind of assumed you.
Thank you, sir. Would you please take a seat and let everyone introduce themselves for the record, so that the people watching on television will know who's here and who's speaking?
Captain Jason Fields, this is Captain Dexter Coleman. They lead my staff over to the jail. First, I'd like to say it's first court meeting I've been to. Congratulations to all you all. Y'all got a tough job, and anything I can do to help, I'm here for you. I'm on the agenda to present my commissary report. I gave all y'all a ledger. I'll briefly go over it. It's got the months down, left side. Specific service, what that line item is there's things that I pay out of the commissary mental health, which is NAAA meetings through the Pike County, through the inmates, and also their TV services. So that line item, nothing but them services comes out of that line item. Miscellaneous product, the item beside of it, you know, we use that for numerous things. Maintenance on all vehicles and vans that we have at the jail. We service all of our vehicles. We have a copier that every month we get invoice for meter usages. Inmate supplies such as special shampoos for lice, like lice shampoo for the inmates. We pay for that out of there. We buy TVs. We got programs over to the jail, MRT programs that we got to buy books and papers and things for. We use this account for that. In February, I increased our work release program over to the jail. We added additional crew. And in February, we purchased new weed eaters and chainsaws for a work release crew. That hit us about $7,700. I made the full body scanner that his previous physical court purchased. I make payments out of that account back to the physical court. And my number to this point is about $35,000 is what I've reimbursed the physical court for that full body scanner, and all the payments comes out of this commissary report. And I can go on and on. We service all of our equipment. We supplies for the work release program. Everything comes out of this account, and that's what the miscellaneous product is. The last two columns is the revenue side of it. CPC's Combined Public Communications. They're a telephone company. It generates 2 checks a month. One check I receive, and the amount is listed as you go down per month. The second check is given to the treasurer of the county, which is like mine. The check that we receive at the jail, I think, and I'm not 100%. I think it's like 40% of the total revenue. I get to 40%, and the physical court gets to 60%. And that and that does generate a line item at the jail, which gives revenue back to the physical court. And the last item is Kelwell deposit. That's the Kelwell is the company that provides the service at the jail. They provide. This is just a guess, but I'm going to say probably 80% of the jails throughout the state of Kentucky uses Kelwell services to provide their commissary products to their jail. It's all broke down to how much was brought in, what was spent, and everything is itemized there. Any questions about the commissary account?
I have no questions. While you're here, before we act on the matter on the agenda, I just want to, first of all, thank you for the work that you're doing, and I want to talk a little bit about why we have you in front of the court. We'd like to have it on the agenda at, if not all regular meetings, at most regular meetings, to have you or a member of the staff to come before the court. I'm not sure that's ever been done before, just to update the court, to let people out in the community know what's taking place. I know I came out of my holler this week and that there was a crew of inmates that were doing litter abatement. You told me, I think one day last week, that the inmates picked up over, was it 70 bags of garbage in one day?
It was 71 bags. It was John Reynolds. He was helping Jimmy Dale's worker, Bruce, that day. But I think John Reynolds is taking over that position. And I think that's going to be new to Pike County. I know Judge and Commissioners, we've all talked, and I think that position is going to go to the jail, to where John Reynolds is going to fill that, which that will reduce one worker from your guys' payroll, and it'll be on mine. And I think I can do that pretty much at cost. I don't think it's going to cost that much, but I think at the end of it, I think what you'll see is more productivity out of that position. I'm hoping. I met with Jimmy Dale one day last week, and I think they're averaging 110, 120 bags a day. Ergo is to pick that up to about 150 to 160 bags a day, which you guys get reimbursed on how many bags that's picked up through that litter abatement program.
And just so that people who are watching on television, you're talking about Jimmy Dale Sanders, who's the county's pride coordinator.
Yes, yes.
First of all, we appreciate the work that you're doing to try to help clean up our county. And it's a shame that we have to make the efforts that we do to clean up illegal dumps and littering, because even though we're in the 21st century, there are people who really have no respect for our county or for the people in our communities because they just simply roll the window down and throw the garbage out. And we're taking steps to address that. We're going to be, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be moving someone who's a former police officer into the role of solid waste enforcement, that we can try to crack down on illegal dumping. One of the most important programs that we've worked on in the last week is you have worked with Public Works Commissioner Paul Williamson, and we are looking for every way we can to save money. And we appreciate what you're doing to try to help us put together a plan to where we can use inmates to do all the grass cutting, weed eating at all the community buildings and all the parks. That would allow us to not have to incur seasonal labor costs or part-time labor costs that are really piling up on the county. One of the problems I always, that I had disagreements with some of the prior members of the court when I was in the legislature was the fact that we're building parks and playgrounds at a time when we have a declining coal severance tax revenue stream, and that there was really no money available long-term to take care of these parks and playgrounds. And those things are important to the county, but when you don't have the money to take care of them and maintain them, clean them the way that they should be. So would you just explain a little bit to the people of the county what you're doing, if Commissioner Williamson, he can come up if he'd like to, and that way you can update just while I have you here in front of the court. I'm sure that our commissioners are going to have some comments or questions about this as well, because I really do think that we're on track here to save the county thousands of dollars a year in terms of being able to use inmates who are available to help take care of these public properties. Could you?
Well, one thing I like to say, Judge, is this isn't something that we just planned 3 weeks ago. This is something that me and you discussed way before that you was elected, and the commissioners. This is something that we sat down and talked about, and we've actually been working on this for months now. I've met with you, and I met with Deputy Judge and even Kevin and the commissioners on this issue, and I've met with Paul one day a couple of times last week, and on my end to get this done is I need more additional inmates. There's differences between inmates. I can get inmates, but I got to have inmates that's classified through the Department of Corrections at a level of 1 or 2 that gives them the eligibility to go out in the public to perform his service. So my staff, which is Fields and Coleman, and we've been working on that for about 3 weeks now. And as of right now, we've got additional about 15 more Class 1s that they're going to be the inmates that's going to go out in this program to do. Now, I spoke with Paul, and me and Paul both agree. The end game is I want to have a schedule. I want to be able to have a schedule Monday through Friday. Every Monday, there's parks and playgrounds on that Monday, and that's the properties that's going to get cut on that Monday. Now, where we're going to have issues is if it's raining or we have a delay on Monday, we're going to have to pick it up on Tuesday. And that's where my additional work release crews is going to come in. We didn't cut on Monday, we got to double up on Tuesday. I'll just have to do it with my workforce over to the jail to get caught up. My goal, and I know this is Judge's goal as well, is to cut these parks better than they've been cut in the past and keep them maintained and manicured, if you want to say, to the best of our ability. But there's things on my end that I'm going to need. And I got the inmate, and I can, as I discussed earlier with my commissary report, there's things that I can purchase out of my commissary, and weed eaters and chainsaws and lawnmowers are some of them items. But I'm going to need a couple of vehicles. I'm going to need, in my opinion, probably a new van, something that we can depend on for the next 4 years to get out and provide this service, and a truck. And I know we've had a conversation on this. The truck could be, if you'd have a truck in your surplus truck in your work in the county that you're not using that I can borrow or you can give to the jail, I can use that truck. I'm not here, everybody's looking at me like he's asking for money. No, I'm not asking for money. one of the things that my staff and I have done, and this gets complicated, and I've explained this to the judge and Reggie, but I'm going to try to do it to where everybody can understand it in layman's terms. When an inmate comes into the facility, when a person comes into the facility, if they have $100, that money is taken from their property and is put into my operating system, which is bin engine. And then that's where their money's held. And when they're there, they got opportunities to buy commissary. If they buy commissary, it just comes out of that $100, and bin engine puts it in a line item that it goes to. There's also other fees, such as booking fees that it goes to, nurse calls, doctor calls, if they tear up a mattress. You know, the inmate's charged with that, and it goes to them line items. And I'll sit down, I've started this probably 3 months ago with my staff, and we started looking at these items, these individual line items. And I've discovered the previous administration left money there. So what I'm going to ask is, I have a check for $50,000, and it's from them line items. I talked with Treasurer Stacy yesterday. The check is labeled miscellaneous reimbursements. Now, anything like the nurse's call, doctor calls, mattress destruction, all that money goes back to the fiscal court anyways. So this is your money. So what I'll ask, to be able to get this program up and running, could you please use this $50,000 to buy a new van for the Pike County Detention Center, so I can work with Paul Williamson to get this program up and running?
You're going to turn the check over to the treasurer, and then we'll put that on the next agenda for, and let me say this, when I came out of Left Fork of Island Creek, day before yesterday, I guess it was, when they were up there, or maybe it was last week that they were up there. I'm gonna get my days are running together. The van that you're using looks like an old Sandy Valley transportation van.
That's the Pride, yes. That's what.
Okay. So, and we know, and I've talked about it, and I'll talk about it again here in a few minutes, about the condition of the county's vehicle fleet. And, you know, in one of the prior recent meetings of the prior administration, they were talking about what a great condition our fleet's in. Well, if you drive through the lot up at Ford Mountain and look at some of the vehicles, I think you could legitimately debate that. And we will go ahead and move forward with that, because I believe you're using money. This is not going to cost the county any money. It's money that you're actually giving back. And it will save the taxpayers of this county going over the next 4 years hundreds of thousands of dollars. As former deputy judge, you're aware that the cost to take care of these properties is astronomical. It's labor, it's retirement contributions, it's fuel. So all the things that we have to incur, and that we're going to be able to do a lot of that with inmates, and I think it's a great program. And
I like to say too, I don't think a van's going to cost $50,000. I think you could probably buy a new van, $35,000. So there'll be surplus money here that maybe you can use, put into the program, or to give to help anywhere that you need it. Yes.
And we'll go ahead and look. I'll direct my staff to go ahead and we'll look at the county vehicle fleet to see what type of truck we can make available to the jail for this program. If it's any consolation, the deputy judge and I were going to go out to a road lot last week and look at it, and there was no vehicle. I drove my own truck, so we don't even have a vehicle right now for use in the judge's office. So this is more important because it saves the county a lot of money, and it'll be on the next regular meeting, and we'll let the treasurer go ahead and look to see what we can get off state contract price. And is there a motion to approve authorization for the treasurer to seek procurement of a van at state contract price for use by the jail and jail staff as part of this public works maintenance and upkeep program that we're putting together? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion?
Yeah, on the truck, I think that he might can use the truck in the with the garden that you are putting back in.
Yeah,
Like we need probably a 4-door truck, that way you can get some more inmates in instead of just a single cab truck.
That's something else I'd like to talk about too, if you got a minute. I don't want to take up your time.
Take your time.
Last year, the Pike County Detention Center went out and we got a 20-acre piece of property at $1 a year. I'm not passing any money for a lease payment. It's $1 a year. We've leased it for 4 years. It's 20 acres. We already started work on it last year. We've got the ground turned. We got all the seed purchased. So here in probably 30 to 45 days, we're going to start back what Rodney Scott had, the jail garden. It's going to be 20 acres. I want to use this produce. I've talked to my kitchen, Kelwell, my kitchen supplier. I want to use this produce to offset some of my expense on feeding the inmates, to cut my cost at the detention center. But also I'm going to use this product with the senior citizen centers. I'm also going to use it at the homeless shelter. So I'll use this truck back and forth, Judge, to be total out front and open about it. It'll be with the program and the garden use as well. But the garden is going to be used for the people of Pike County and offset my expense at the jail.
Commissioner Robertson, you have a question?
Brian, you probably need something like a 250 or a 2500 series truck.
2500.
Because I'm sure you'll be pulling stuff with it too,
Yeah,
won't you?
pulling trailers with mowers and
Yeah, something like a 3/4 ton truck and 4-door cab.
We'll have the staff go ahead and look through the fleet to see what we can use, and I will detail the deputy judge to work on that today or tomorrow to see what we can find. This program, can you tell the people of the county when you anticipate that this maintenance program will really kick into gear? Because most of the parks are really closed now. And there's some people after the last meeting that started a rumor that Grants Branch Park had been closed, and that was just...
My goal, Judge and Commissioners, is to have everything that I need, inmate labor, tools, trucks, everything I need in place within 30 days. Now, I'll be at Paul Williamson's discretion on when we need to actually get out and start mowing, but my goal is to not let this program fail. We're implementing it, and it's going to succeed. And I'm hoping, Paul, within 30 days that I'll be ready to move with it.
Commissioner Williamson.
We have got probably an extra 4-door 350 truck. I've got it sitting at Belfry right now. So, yeah.
Commissioner, do you think that this program is going to save the county money?
Oh yes, I guarantee it save a lot of money. Yeah.
Is the county spending? Or previously, has the county spent a lot of money taking care of the parks and community centers?
The last 3 or 4 years, we have used inmate labor. And I've took a man with inmate labor, plus what helped Brian has really been tremendous help. 2 or 3 crews out there with the help, but we have been using them. And then it's still a county cost on equipment repair and buying weed eaters, and it's still expensive to us. We have been using inmate labor for the last few years, though.
What we want to do in this program is we want to have the inmate labor take over every aspect of maintenance that we can to save. I know that we've had seasonal workers.
Yes, we have, yes.
So we want to be able to remove the cost for seasonal labor or part-time labor if at all possible, because, even your part-time labor, we have to contribute to the retirement system. It's not just the hourly pay, it's the fringe benefit as well. So anything we can do to save money, we want to do that, and we appreciate y'all. So we have on the floor a motion by Commissioner Booth, a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other comment or discussion?
I'd like for you to explain a little bit, maybe to the people on TV, and kind of how your bed count is. I know it was used to be working over there. What is it, 350 head facility?
Jason. Yeah, I love to talk about it.
If we got time to do that.
We have time.
Well, I mean,
Kind of like, I guess what I'm saying is the difference in state, kind of like how the jail helps the county there on that.
that's such a good question, Jason, for the main reason is the jail produces revenue every month, which I know Stacy understands that. Our bed count is 342 beds is what we have. Currently, we got 379 inmates. Now, this is something that I'm very proud of that doesn't get talked about much, but this is something I'm very proud of. Out of the 379 inmates that I have in the facility as of yesterday afternoon, 267 of them, and I hate to put it in this phrase, but they're paying customers. I mean, my job as jailer is running a business. My business has got a $5.1 million a year budget and 379 employees. That's how I got to look at it. And the more paying customers I have in that facility, the more revenue comes into this county. So I have 267 paying customers, which is either state inmates, U.S. Marshal inmates, and that's how I produce revenue. Now, right as of yesterday, 70% of my inmates are paying customers. That's unheard of through the Department of Corrections at the county level. My goal is to get it to 75. If I can get to 75%, what that generates is additional $250,000 a year revenue for the fiscal court. If you look at my budget's 5.1. Yesterday, I got with Treasurer, and we got our midterms. I call it midterms. We're halfway through our first fiscal year. So I looked at my midterms, and I hope, I ain't talked with Frankie about this, but I hope he agrees. I mean, my budget right now is 5.1. I'm on track to come in somewhere around 4.8, which coming in $400,000 under budget. I mean, that's just unheard of. When you put on top of the paying customer percentage I have, I want to get it to 75%, and this is how I'm going to do it. I've met with the district judges last week and the week before, and I want to use the district judges in a home incarceration company, a contract home incarceration company. Right now, I have 110, 120 county inmates. That's 110, 120 people that the taxpayers of Pike County pays 100% of their stay at the detention center. By using this home incarceration program, I'm going to try to free up 20 to 40 beds on a regular basis. And if I can count on this program, I've already met with WestCare. WestCare runs our SAP, Substance Abuse Program here in Pike County. I've met with WestCare last week, and they've agreed to give me 20 additional WestCare beds. Now, what that'll do is that brings the drug epidemic that we're having here in Pike County. That's going to help us fight that epidemic and generate 20 more beds for drug rehab. But what that also does is a fiscal court and the jail, as far as my budget, that's going to get me to my 75% of paying customers. And that's my goal, Jason. That's why I liked your question. It led into that. And I think that's important as far as the jail standards.
Anybody else? Anything else? I also, and I think all four of us have talked to the district judges at some point in time. What I think is important is the people who are watching, that we want people in the county to understand county government as well as if they work for the county. Because I think if that knowledge will help explain some of the decisions that you make, that we have to make. People don't realize that when you say county inmates, those are people who could be charged with murder, drug trafficking, all felonies, and the county is responsible for the cost of incarceration and care, even for felony inmates who have been charged and prosecuted or are being prosecuted in circuit court until 7 days post-conviction. So when you say county inmate, that might be someone charged with a capital crime, and they are the county's responsibility until 7 days after their conviction date.
I'm so glad you said that because I forgot the most important thing about the home incarceration program. No violent crime, no sex offenders, none of them will be eligible for home incarceration. So, I mean, I think that's critical for the home incarceration. It's just, it'd be DUIs, child support, you know, things that they'd qualify for home incarceration. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Misdemeanors.
And one, just on that same thing, is when, in my former role, I sponsored and passed a bill at the request of former Kentucky Supreme Court Justice Will T. Scott on the uniform schedule of bail so that people weren't in the jail just waiting to see a pretrial release officer. So certain offenses, they could just bond out immediately. So we need to continue to work with our district judges. Every alternative sentencing or alternative incarceration program that we can move nonviolent, non-sex offender, non-drug trafficking inmates to a home incarceration program will save the taxpayer money.
And like I said, Judge Wright and Judge May both has been on board and nothing but eager and ready to help.
All right. Any other question or discussion? We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Booth to authorize the purchase of a van at state contract price to be paid for with the $50,000 that's being reimbursed to the fiscal court by Jailer Morris and his staff. We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Seeing no further question or discussion, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next matter that while we have you here is the acknowledgement of the Pike County Jailer's Commissary Report for 2018. Is there a motion to acknowledge the 2018 Jailer's Commissary Report?
Motion.
We have a motion to acknowledge the 2018 Jailer's Commissary Report by Commissioner Robertson. Was there a second by Commissioner Tackett?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Last thing, if you don't care, it won't take 10 seconds. I met with Assistant County Attorney Kevin King and Judge. I think it was on your first day, and Mr. King had a question about the Obamacare, the penalties, part-time versus full-time. I took care of that situation. I'd like to say I appreciate the way that you handled it. You just asked me to get it in perspective where it was legal. What I did was I sat down and I broke down the cost of making full-time employees. So every officer at the Pike County Detention Center now is full-time. I had to lay off 4 individuals to do so, to keep in my budget, but I wanted to address that with you, Kevin. Everybody over now is full-time, and everybody's falls within the Obamacare.
And we appreciate that. And just so, again, we want people to understand what's taking place. The Assistant County Attorney called an issue that where the state or the county had some compliance issues. He caught that in the first week on the job, and we appreciate that. And that's been corrected both in the fiscal court and at the jail, and we appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you all very much. You're welcome. Anytime you want to be on the agenda.
I'll try to come over monthly, maybe your last court meeting of every month, to update it on the programs and talk more.
We would like to have you come at one meeting just to talk about what is taking place at the jail, so that the people in the county, not only are we here to do the county's business, but we're here to help bring the people of the county up to speed on what's taking place.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The next matter on the agenda is approval of the Fish Trap Access Road Phase 2 Change Order Number 2, extending the contract to substantial completion by 60 days. I would ask County Road Supervisor Fabian Little to come before the court and pull up a microphone there and make sure it's on and pull it close to you so that we can make sure it's being picked up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. This matter is relating to a change order that's been requested to have substantial completion on Phase 2 of the Fish Trap Access Road. Could you just briefly explain to the people what this issue entails? And I've asked you to look at it. I believe this was an issue that was before the prior administration, and just educate us on that, please.
Okay, Mr. Kaiser is he's the one who's worked quite a bit with this, but he is.
Would you come on up, Mr. Kaiser, and introduce yourself so the people who are watching will know who you are and what your position is?
I'm Jimmy Kaiser. I'm the floodplain coordinator.
Would you just bring us up to speed on what this issue involves and why there is a change order needed to reach substantial completion?
This deals, Judge, with the Fish Trap Access Road. We wrote a grant on Upper Pompey to move some houses and to finish this road. It's probably started 6 years ago, I guess, altogether. Close to it, yeah. And they done Phase 1, and they run out of money, and we wrote the grant and got this money for to finish the road. They started it back in the October, November last year, and they was on schedule. And this rain is just every time they've got a lot of it already on grade. Half of it from halfway up into Pompey is on grade and finished, and trying to move this dirt and finish it, they're just tearing up more than they're accomplishing. And they just needed some more time to let the weather break before they can finish it up. It's no more expense to the county. It's just a time issue, and they're wanting to get out as bad as we're wanting to get it finished. So, and they'll work during this time if the weather allows.
I think this was last year was the highest recorded rainfall in eastern Kentucky, so that's very understandable for construction projects to be delayed. Is it your recommendation to the court that this change order be authorized? Okay. And Mr. Little, is it your recommendation as well as a county road supervisor that the change order be authorized?
Yes, it is.
With the recommendation of the county's floodplain coordinator, Mr. Kaiser, and the county's road supervisor, Fabian Little, do we have a motion to approve the change order for Phase 2 of the Fish Trap Access Road, extending it by 60 days? We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Question by Commissioner Robertson.
What is the date on that they're supposed to be finished? The reason I'm asking this, they like to move the campers in up there around the 1st of April, and I just need to, kind of know if try to hold them off, or
I can check with the contractor and Summit and see and get you an answer back.
Okay.
For a more permanent deadline, but I would think that they'll have it done.
Well, Glenn Atkins, he manages the campers up there through the fire department stuff, and he was just wanting to know that,
It actually says here that the revised final completion date would be April the 8th.
Okay. I'll just relay that message back to him.
I was just asking Ms. Robinson if we had a copy of that, and I was trying to flip through this stack of information. I think that is in the packet of information. I overlooked it, and thankfully she pointed it out. It says that it changes the completion date from March 9th to a revised final completion date on April 8th, 2019. And it says it does not increase the contract price.
And that was, they're gonna put the blacktop down too, right, Jimmy? Within that time frame?
No, Thursday of last week, Jonathan asked me, did we want to go ahead and start the bid for the blacktop and stuff? And I took it on my own to tell him, to go ahead and start the bid, have it bid worked up so we could get it in place that soon as the blacktop plant and stuff opened up, that we could get it started.
That shouldn't interfere with the campers anyway, once they're backed in there and parked.
Two separate roads,
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to move around on the agenda just a little bit, and we'll go ahead here. We have a motion. I'm about ready to jump ahead of myself. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Booth, a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any other question or discussion? Seeing none, ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. And while you're there, Mr. Little, we're going to move forward to the issue of the second reading of a Pike County road ordinance for Smith Lane. And this was a matter that was given a reading by the prior court that the members of this court were not quite familiar with. We also had, I believe this past week, that you and County Commissioner Brian Booth and Deputy Judge Executive Reggie Hickman went out to look at the road at Smith Lane. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And would you tell us what you discovered and what the purpose of that visit was?
Well, it was just to make sure that that road would fit the criteria to be adopted into the county road system. And the only question that I have was the length of that road. I think on that document it states 160 feet.
167 feet is the ordinance that it basically says it's 167 feet. It was reported to me by the Deputy Judge Executive that it was much longer than that.
And that's correct. Yes, that was the issue that I had also.
Okay. Do you have, and it may be that we need to amend this proposed ordinance because that is incorrect. Do you have an approximate length of that road?
I do not at this time. I would actually need to take something and mark that off and get that for you.
If there's no objection, I would recommend that we pass over this item on the agenda until such time as we can correct this ordinance. I believe that it would be improper for us, because once this is in, it's only going to be 167 feet that we could take care of. Have you made a preliminary recommendation or a decision as to whether that the inclusion of Smith Lane would be in compliance with the Kentucky Revised Statutes as well as the County Administrative Code?
Well, from what I have seen so far, it does fit within their criteria to be adopted in.
Commissioner Booth, would you address this, because you've been over there and looked at it, and I'd appreciate your comment on this.
Just as soon as we pulled in, though, me and Mr. Little also agreed that it needs the length. Just we didn't think agreed. It should be longer than what it is. It does have the homes that covers it and everything like that. So yeah, it does meet what we agreed on as far as the criteria of the county's administrative code on putting it into the road system as far as the homes and what it serves and all. Yeah.
My recommendation is that we pass over it. If you could go back out, if you can get Commissioner Booth, he was kind enough to go out with you on this one. Take a look and let's get an accurate measurement of the length of the road, because once it's in the system, if it's put in at 167 feet, that's all we're going to be able to maintain.
And that was all that we had. The question was the length of the road.
So we're going to need to amend this ordinance, and if you could go ahead and get that, and we'll need to complete this other acknowledgement, dedication, petition. The individuals, and we're going to have to get the county attorney, assistant county attorney to look at this, because the petition to put this into the road system had also had the length at 167 feet. We may need to revisit that. But it's my motion that we pass over this item of business. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. All right. We'll pass this to the next regular court meeting in 2 weeks if you can get this to us. Hopefully we can take care of it at that time.
Yeah, I will.
Right. The next item is the second reading of a writ of a Pike County road ordinance for Boulder E. And would you explain this one as well? And I think this one is in what would be Old District Number 3.
And Judge, I'm sorry, but I have not had time to even look at this road, so I can't make a recommendation on this one at this time.
I would say you're slacking, but I know what you've had to deal with. You've been on the job a week.
Yeah, 4 days.
So we'll go ahead. It's also my motion that we pass over this ordinance until that you've had an opportunity, and maybe one of the commissioners would like to ride out with you to take a look at it, or if I get a chance this week, I'll be happy to do that. Is there a second on that motion to pass over? Any question or discussion on that? All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? So we'll pass over this item as well. Next item on the agenda is approval to remove County Road Low Street, which is CR 7841, from the county road system. And again, this is a matter that was addressed on December 18th, about 2 weeks before the last administration left office. Have you had an opportunity to review this?
I have not.
Okay. Again, it would be my motion that this matter be passed over till the next court meeting to give you an opportunity to go out and take a look at it to see if it's appropriate for this road to be. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor to pass over this matter? Aye. Any opposed? All right, this matter is also going to be passed over until the next court meeting. We'll let you have a seat back in the back, and then we'll be bringing you up here in a few minutes on the Commissioner's report. The next matter is I would request that County Finance and Administration Department Commissioner Pam Van Hoos and Mr. Vince Ratliff, who is on the judge's staff that's been detailed to the Occupational Tax Office, come forward. And would you all please introduce yourself to the folks out in the county so that they'll know who they're hearing from and what your role in county government is.
Pam Van Over. I'm in the Pike County Finance Office and Occupational.
Well, you're actually the head person in that office, is that correct? Yes. And would you tell the folks out there exactly what your job duties are, what you do? Let's start with finance and administration.
In finance, over payroll, accounts payables, Frankie a lot. We just do all the incoming monies and outgoing monies.
And is the Occupational Tax Office is under the Finance and Administration Department, correct?
Collection of the occupational and net profit tax for the county.
And Mr. Ratliff, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Vince Ratliff, and of course I work for your office, Judge, but I've been detailed to work with collections on some of these county taxes.
Now, whichever one wants to address this, one of the first obvious problems that we recognized as a court when we came in is that there was only basically one employee working in the Occupational Tax Office. Is that correct? Right. So with a county of, if you take out the areas of the county where like Coal Run, Pikeville, Elkhorn City, you're probably somewhere between 45 and 50,000 people in the county that will be subject, or in areas of the county subject to the county occupational tax. And there was no one working on enforcement, is that correct?
At first, we did have an enforcement person, but then he done cutbacks, so he was taken from our office, put back in that spot.
Well, it would seem to me, and the reason I've asked Mr. Ratliff to go from the judge's office to work with you, and we also hired another employee to work full-time there, is it doesn't make sense to cut someone from an office that's responsible for generating revenue. So if, you know, it's sort of like if you have a business and you don't have anybody collecting for you, you're not going to stay in business very long. So what we've asked is we've asked Mr. Ratliff and Mr. Coleman to work with you and Ms. Rutherford in the occupational tax office, because would you just, one of you just explain what we know about people not paying occupational tax, not filing?
Well, I have a report here in front of me. We have 309 taxpayers listed that are delinquent in some way. Either they have not filed, they have not paid, you know, for 1 or more years.
What, just from what you know, do you believe that there are a substantial number of people who are working in the county, running businesses, or as sole proprietorships that are simply not filing occupational tax returns?
Yes.
And would you suspect that it's more than the 397, I believe you said?
That we wouldn't know until they actually got out and surveyed the county to make sure we catch new business that's gone in and not registered with us.
We actually discovered one this morning that evidently is a contractor for Kentucky Power that no one has down, which we were going to attempt to contact them, but we ran out of time before the meeting.
It's been my position that for those of us who work and file taxes and pay our taxes, with the burden that some of the property tax hikes, the implementation of the occupational tax, the fact that we're having to look at raising solid waste fees, it's only fair that if you are required to file and pay taxes that you do your share. It's not right for many people to work hard, struggle to make ends meet, and have other people just completely fail to honor their obligation. So we're going to keep ramping up our collection efforts. And one of the things, Mr. Ratliff, would you detail what the work that you're doing and the assistance that the Pikeville city government has offered? The city attorney, Rusty Davis, I believe, has helped.
Yes, he has.
Would you explain that for us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, which I wanted to bring up to you, we have a meeting with the city here at the courthouse in the conference room in your office, 9 a.m. Friday morning. And they've been collecting these taxes a whole lot longer than the county has. They've had an occupational tax as far back as I can remember. They are very good about collecting it. We want to see what they're doing, kind of seeing their best practices that they're using. Another thing is we want to get a manual made up. You know, I came in fresh doing this. There's going to be some point that I will be leaving here just because of my age. I want to be able to leave a legacy behind in the form of a operations binder that whoever takes this office, you know, the next time can walk in there and be up to speed.
Just to clarify this for the people of the county, is there any set protocol manual or operations manual now that would allow a new employee to take over collections or walk them through the steps necessary to enforce the occupational and net profits tax?
No, there is not.
So it's just been off the cuff, piecemeal.
From what they've been able to show us, some of the letters that they've generated, the only problem is a number of those letters come back bad address, you know, they've moved, whatever.
Gone out of
Yeah,
business and
yeah.
not notified us. You know.
It would seem to me that we need people on the ground investigating new businesses, scouring the Secretary of State's records, looking at this past week, the city of Pikeville provided us a vendor list of companies that do business in the city, companies that make deliveries, that pay occupational tax. And I suspect that many of those do business in the county and may not be paying. And so we appreciate, first of all, I want to thank the city of Pikeville for working with us. They're not, there's been a lack of cooperation between the county and city for some time, and we want to change that. They've offered to help us. They understand the revenue problem facing the county, and I want to thank them, and I think all the members of the court appreciate that. We have put on the agenda an item of business that would authorize, it's authorization for the Pike County Finance and Administration Department and the Office of Occupational Tax to initiate criminal and/or civil proceedings against all persons and businesses that have failed to file the appropriate tax returns and persons or businesses that have failed to register with the Occupational Tax Office, and to initiate civil tax proceedings to collect delinquent occupational license fees and net profit taxes. That's on the agenda. And it would be my recommendation to authorize the Finance and Administration Department and the Occupational Tax Office to take all steps necessary to either prosecute individuals that are evading their tax obligations or to institute civil legal proceedings to collect unpaid occupational or net profit taxes. Is there a motion on that item of business? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett for authorization of the Pike County Pike County Finance and Administration Department and the Office of Occupational Tax to initiate criminal and/or civil proceedings against all persons and businesses that have failed to file the appropriate tax returns and persons or businesses that have failed to register with the Office of Occupational Tax, and to initiate civil proceedings to collect delinquent occupational license fees and net profit taxes. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Commissioner Robertson.
Should we look into a little amnesty for these people that's not filed if they're willing to come in and get caught up?
We had mentioned that, talked about that earlier. We could put that on the next agenda. The first thing is if they're not coming in and even filing their returns, that's criminal. As the old saying goes, you can't prosecute somebody for not paying. You can sue them civilly. But if they're not filing the return and not registering with the Occupational Tax Office, to me, that's just an intentional evasion of their tax obligation. Business owners, people have there may be a hardship why they can't pay, but simply avoiding the taxes, to me, is something I would be willing, once we allow them to move forward with efforts to force people to file their returns, we could always implement an amnesty program to look at the waiver of a portion of the interest and penalty. The only concern I would have on that is if we know, people in the county know that this tax is in place, your business pays it, Commissioner Tackett's business pays it, my business pays it. My argument against an amnesty program would be, at this point, if they've not paid it, then it's intentional, it's not an oversight, because this has been all over the press. People know this tax obligation's there. I'll be happy to put that on any of us can put anything, if you want it on the agenda, we'll do that. I take the opinion that if they're not paying at this point, that it's intentional, and it's put the county in a pretty precarious spot. So I would sort of be against an amnesty program. I've wavered back and forth on that.
Well, I agree, but we've caught them now, so it's...
Well, if you want to, we can pass over this, or we can go ahead and authorize them to move forward with that item of business. And I apologize, I've got a sore throat and it's a little bit difficult to talk. And then we could come back and do an amnesty program once we give them an opportunity, because we're still a couple of weeks away from moving forward with this.
I think we should go ahead and proceed with what we voted on here, but you know, we can see, you know, or talk about it later if we get a whole lot of response on this. That's what I think. You know.
Well,
We have one come in this morning that hadn't ever registered.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, you know. They've never been enforced to do this. We start enforcing it. I think we're gonna see people come in and go ahead and do it.
All the businesses think, even though their business is located in one of the other 3 cities within the county, that they do not have to file with Pike County. But they do work out in Pike County, and it is where you do your work. A lot of them don't, majority of them don't understand that.
I mean, as a small business owner, I mean, you know, I don't like no, but, you know, I'm paying it, Ronnie's paying it. Let's just all pay it.
When we did start this tax in 2015, was all new to us. Grace Ratliff with the city of Pikeville, we had a meeting with her, and she told me a lot, taught me a lot, and I'm still in contact with Rebecca Hamilton with the city. If I have questions, she'll be the first one for me to call. You know, helped me along the way a lot.
well, we appreciate their cooperation, and just so people understand, this court is going to go after people who are not paying the occupational tax, because it's not fair that most people pay and some people just intentionally avoid it. There may be, like you said, an educational component to this, but we want to move forward with this, and we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Robertson. Do we have a second? Was there a second on that?
Yeah, I think he was second. I was motion, or
We have a second on the floor by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion?
I've got one more. What is the, if everybody that's signed up, what's the difference, who's signed up, how many's not signed up, or do we have anything on that?
Well, there's a number. We feel pretty confident that we just don't know people that aren't signed up because they're not in the system.
Do we get some groundwork out in the county?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we spotted one this morning that was setting poles for Kentucky Power, that a new contractor we had never seen in here before. So that's obviously they're working in the county.
Right.
Call in, or for instance, do you have this company that just came in?
Okay. So we don't have a number, how many's paying, how many's not paying?
Well, we do have the number that we know of, 309 delinquents.
Okay. Okay. That's all, Judge.
But some of those, let me add this, some of those may be out of business, so they may not truly be delinquent.
Okay. That's all, Judge.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Judge Jones?
Yes. Thank you all. The next matter on the agenda, which will be only for discussion, there will not be a vote taken today, will be, we would ask that Commissioner Bobby Mullins from Pike County Solid Waste come forward and have a seat. And please just, the issue that's on the agenda for today is we have asked you to put together a proposed rate structure. And one of the issues that came about is we've been looking at the old ordinance. The ordinance is probably the second revision of the solid waste ordinance, adopted on December 16th, 1985. One of the issues is Section 8.04. And this is something that I'll be happy to provide a copy to anybody in the county that would like to look at this. Section 8.04 in the ordinance relating to the Pike County solid waste, I'm going to read it in pertinent part. It shall be the policy of the court to operate the solid waste collection disposal services under this ordinance on a balanced budget. And it says, in furtherance of that policy, rates hereunder shall be adjusted annually so as to produce a balanced budget. Well, unfortunately, I'm not sure if some of the prior courts even took the opportunity to review this ordinance. And it's painfully obvious that this ordinance has not been followed in terms of the way that it's been operated. Presently, I believe it was through November, and the county treasurer can correct me, I think the county's general fund is transferred in $1.1 million to the solid waste fund. So we're already at $1.1 million. Now, we don't know if we're even going to be able to roll any of that money back. Some of the money that have been transferred into solid waste from the general fund had to be transferred back in, I think, in December to make payroll. Is that correct?
Right. Through November, I had transferred 1.2 million into solid waste, but to cover the general fund where I had transferred so much money out, I had to transfer 100,000 back into that fund. So yeah, a net through December of 1.1 million.
Is it pretty common? Let me back up and ask this a different way. Historically, and I know you've only been in your position since last June, but historically, has the general fund had to supplement solid waste?
Yes, as far as I remember, the general fund's always had to subsidize solid waste to one extent or another.
So is it fair to say that the solid waste programs never operated under a balanced budget?
Under the revenue that they generate themselves, no.
We've asked you, and I'm not going to go through everything that we talked about in the last court meeting, and I know that the commissioners are going to have a lot of questions. I had an opportunity yesterday just to review some preliminary numbers, and so the folks out there will understand these are just for discussion at this point. We know it's been reported in the Herald Leader, it's been reported in the Appalachian News Express. You testified last week before the court about the needs in solid waste. A lot of these issues were already front and center on the agenda of myself and the commissioners. I spent some time yesterday over at the county road maintenance garage looking at some, and I'm going to post, when I get some time this evening, some photographs of some of the equipment that the men and women in the solid waste department are having to use. Trucks that are, the GMC trucks that they're no longer even making parts for some of them. And you're having to cannibalize trucks that have been taken out of service just to find parts. Trucks with 193,000 miles that are rusted out. One truck that one of the maintenance garage employees referred to as the $2 million truck because they've spent so much money on repairs and replacement parts. Would you please just walk us through the rate structure that you think that needs to be implemented in order to address the needs of the landfill, the equipment needs, the environmental needs, and I believe that after the last court meeting, the next day, that you received another violation in the mail. Is that correct? Right. So there's been another citation issued against the county for problems at the landfill over the leachate. Is that correct? So we know that there's a lot of issues that have to be addressed, and if you follow the ordinance that would require solid waste to operate under a balanced budget, would it be fair to say that for many years the solid waste system operated at $10 per residential customer per month? Yes. Do you know about how long that would have been the rate?
I don't know how long it would have been, but Judge, when I came to solid waste 6 years ago to the commissioner position, I recommended then that residential rates would be at $20 just in order for us to operate on a balanced budget from day-to-day operations. That would be not including money for equipment or expanding a landfill or drilling wells, but that's just for us to operate on a balanced budget. But because they never would set the rates at $20, that's why we have $1 million or $1.1 million deficit each year, because we were spending out more than that we were taking in. And there's just so much to look at. So our equipment begin to depreciate when they purchase equipment, they borrow money for it, and I'm talking about the previous court. Borrow money to purchase equipment, and they did not consider depreciation. It's though as we seem like that we bought equipment that had eternal life, and they expected it to have eternal life, and it doesn't. It depreciates.
Jokingly, in your other role as a pastor, that's something that you're probably capable of discussing.
Okay.
Equipment, the equipment that I looked at yesterday, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that some of the commissioners have done, and I'm going to brag on them here in a few minutes. They've really taken a hands-on role trying to get to the bottom of this, and I've asked, and we're going to appoint some committees. Commissioner Robertson's probably has as much experience in equipment and trucking as anybody in this courtroom, probably the most of anybody in this courtroom. He's over taking a look at some of the equipment we have, but just some of the stuff that I took photographs of yesterday, a lot of the trucks that are used, the mini packers especially, they seem to me to be worn out. Seats ripped out in them, damaged in the interior. The boxes are rusted through. They can't find parts for some of them. Could you just elaborate on that just for a moment?
It has always been a problem ever since I worked with solid waste for 20 years, and even when I drove the mini packers, the trucks being rusted out, not fit to be on the road, to tell you the truth. And I'll give you an example one time. I was driving a mini packer that the signal lights and brake lights in the back in the frame that they're mounted to had rusted out, and the lights had fell down inside of the framework. So I go to the garage and I say, I'm afraid to drive this truck because people can't tell when I'm turning on and off the road or whenever that I'm about to stop. Well, on one instance, I was sitting in the middle of the road getting ready to turn up a holler, left-handed, and I seen a vehicle coming toward me. Well, I sit here and I wait. I looked in my mirror, and here comes a fellow. I mean, he's a moving on. And I thought, he's not going to stop. And I was in a standard shift truck, so I just put my truck in neutral and I turn it toward this holler. Just as the car's ready to come by, he comes over in the other lane going to go around me. He sees the car. He shoots back behind me and piles in the back of my truck, shoves my truck up in that holler just as the car goes by, and just tears his truck all to pieces. The bumper's plumb back up in the windshield, but just luckily he wasn't hurt. Didn't hurt our truck. He jumps out and he's mad because says I wasn't given a signal. The state police comes and says, was you given a signal? I said, yes. He goes back there and looks down in that hole in the framework, and he said, yeah, it's working. And then he turns around and gets onto the fella for not being able to see something big as a garbage truck sitting in the middle of the road. Well, he could have got killed, or someone else could have got killed. But that's the type of equipment that we've been having to run and operate.
I went over yesterday to the landfill because there have been some complaints about mud on the road. And in my other professional job, you know, as an attorney, that can be substantial liability on the county if someone hits mud that's been tracked onto a road from a permitted landfill. There's no guardrail across that section of the road. And I mean, it is dangerous. And just looking at the water truck that's being used to clean the road up there, there's no spray bar on it. So, I mean, that's another issue that we're going to have to address immediately. It's got, I guess, a 4-inch main that they're just opening up and letting it run down the road, and that's not adequate. It's obvious to me, and it may not be obvious to the people of the county. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about some special fiscal court meetings that we're going to announce if the members authorize that, because we want to go out in the county and let people know what we're faced with. Let people know that if we are going to continue to operate a solid waste system, it's going to take revenue for equipment. And, you know, we have a meeting this afternoon with the engineering firm that we retained last week to look at how much airspace or how much useful life we have at the landfill. Commissioner Booth, in his full-time, his I won't say full-time, but his other job, because it seems like we're all working 2 and 3 jobs right now. In his other job as the sanitation director for the city of Pikeville is over there repeatedly. And he's of the opinion that that landfill will be lucky to get 4 years out of it. Commissioner, would you just address that, just what you've observed over there?
Well, just from September till the present date, from my understanding, we're getting ready to move up another bench, if I'm not correct, or just up another, because we're out to the front right now. From yesterday when I was over dumping, we're nearly to the front now, so we're getting ready to go up again. Is that about what I'm saying about right? We're getting ready to move up on
go up another lift.
Yeah, we're going up another lift. So from September till the middle of January, we're ready to move another lift. That's going to put us, I know we're not against the liner, but we're going to probably go close to the top of the liner then, ain't we, Bobby, when we go up to that next lift?
What
right?
we'll do, there's a valley that runs around that next to the liner. We have to fill that valley in first, and then when you get up to the landfill, there's a section to the left you have to go to fill that in. But also you got to keep in mind there's some airspace on the front of the landfill. It's got to come on out farther yet. So if you're driving up just looking at it, you wouldn't realize that. But still yet, 4 years, that.
Right. What I'm getting at, though, that's just from September till now. We're done ready to go up another lift. And from, Jerry's Restaurant's getting ready to come down in Pikeville, so that'll probably be going there also, because City Tar, that's what I brought in the other day is went in there, and that's going to make it fill up even faster on that part there. So to me, we're losing time fast on what we're going to have to do on the proposal. Either we're going to be able to expand, and I noticed we got some more slide issues look like coming up on the right side, and also in the center we had to dip out some more stuff yesterday. So it's time's running out fast.
Yeah, there's no future there much for us to, nothing to look at positive.
Can you tell us about the rate structure that
the rate structure?
The rate structure that, as a solid waste commissioner.
Okay, just before we get to that, Judge, let me get back to that road situation that you was talking about. We do have a broom to put on the road. We do have the water truck, so that's about the only thing that we can do for it, which we can put that bar on the truck like you were talking about. But actually, to clean that road like it should be, and I talked to Commissioner Booth a little bit about this yesterday, actually we need a truck like a city cleans the streets with, that we would keep on that hill continually, which that's a great cost that they're
I contacted Mid-State Equipment yesterday about that. He told me for the mud issue that we have there, he said that probably a vac truck wouldn't ever get that mud off. We had a long conversation yesterday evening. He called me late yesterday. He suggested what he called, it was a truck with a pressure truck, that just pushes the water out. He said because he wouldn't he couldn't come in and tell us that he could spec out a truck or even sell us a truck that would pull that mud off. And as thick as it is coming out of that landfill, he said you need a truck that's just a pump truck that will just push the water out and just basically wash it off. He said, you know, he could come inspect us one or try to say he won't, but he said really and truthfully the vac truck wouldn't work for our problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Going on then to what you asked about a rate structure, and we're talking about solid waste being supporting its own self, and which really that's what we need to do. It's what it should have always been doing. But because that we were not allowed to set the rates each year, that we could operate on a balanced budget, and like I said, we're having to play catch up, and it is proposed that over the next 5 years that we're going to have to raise $11 million additional to what we're taking in right now. And our regular rate for customers, the current rate is $17.50. Low income rate was $14. Landlord rates was $13.50, and a total customers 20,261, and our monthly income was projected to be at $337,272.50 a month, which yearly that's just $4,047,270. Then we had the commercial rates that's there that would generate $36,561.40 a month. So, and that's $438,736.80 a year. And our current year solid waste income being total $4,486,006.80 on those rates. So we're not even operating at a balanced budget. And so there's no way that you could purchase equipment. Now this is just a proposed new rate, and this is what we've got to do if solid waste is going to support itself, and we're going to get to the point where that we can purchase equipment, expand landfill, drill gas wells, and also operate on a balanced budget. The regular rate customers, now keep in mind this is just proposed rate. If you all can come up with anything different, work these numbers, but this is exactly what it's going to take to get us to where we need to be. Regular rate customers would be $25, low rate customers $19, landlord rates at $23, and that would bring us to $490,789 a month. Annually, that'd be $5,889,468. Then we would have the commercial rates, which varies because you have different sized dumpsters, and it would depend on how many times a week that they want to be dumped, so that number is going to fluctuate. But with all of those taken into consideration, the proposed monthly income then with the business rates would be $816,050.45, which the yearly income would be $9,792,605. But the yearly proposed solid waste income with what that we are taking in now with the proposed rate would be $15,682,073.40. So with the current rates being proposed at that over a 5-year period, and with the new rates, that would raise $11,097,556 additional to what that we are taking in already. So that's what it's going to take to get us to where we need to be. And we've looked these numbers over, we've checked them, looked at every way that we can, but that's what it's going to take. And also, in doing this, I would recommend, as hearing the previous commissioners are talking, I would recommend the Occupational Tax Office to contact Solid Waste, and to in best of my remembrance, which don't hold me to this, we have like 900 and some businesses that's a paying in solid waste, so they might want to take a look at those and compare their list with our list, and maybe find some of those that they need to contact.
Just looking at the mid-year financial report that we're going to talk about during Treasurer's business, so far in the budgeted revenue for the current fiscal year, it looks like the solid waste budget was $6,239,389 is what was budgeted.
Correct.
So far, the solid waste revenue on the revenue side is $3,755,000, but that includes the $1.1 million general fund transfer, plus it started out with a carry forward, a surplus from the prior year of $235,000. So at the halfway point, if you take out the $1,335,000 for the surplus and the transfer, you're looking at about $2,420,000 is what the revenue's been so far on a budget of $6.2 million. Now, the garbage bills will go out here before too long once a decision's made on this issue. But if you factor that 1.3 million out, we're substantially below 50% revenue halfway through the year. So the problem that I see, and maybe someone else will want to chime in on this, with declining coal severance tax monies, with declining property taxes, I don't see that it's long-term that we can sustain subsidizing solid waste from the general fund. And there's a matter of fairness too, because there's people who pay county taxes, for instance, that live in the city of Pikeville or in the city of Coal Run that pay county taxes that don't use Pike County Solid Waste Service, but yet their tax dollars are having to be used to supplement or subsidize the solid waste system. So there's an element of fairness on that issue, because for those individuals, their tax money, they're having to pay solid waste service in their own community, but their tax dollars are also going to subsidize solid waste service for others. And I'm a Pike County solid waste customer. We're going to have to find a way to get solid waste on sound financial footing before we can do anything. We've got to address some of the equipment problems. And, I've said repeatedly in the last two court meetings that safety is paramount. We can't endanger the lives of people who work for solid waste, nor can we endanger the lives of people in the community, people who are on the roadway. So we're going to have to look long and hard. Now, let's clarify this. There's a lot of people who heard the number $50 to $60 a month. And I suspect it's because of rumors being spread, or because people didn't take time to read the article that you laid out. I believe what you said to the paper is if this landfill shuts down, we could see rates go to $50 or $60 a month.
Correct. For the purpose, the reason for that is we would have to transport our garbage to, say, Big Run landfill. And
where is Big Run landfill?
It's down Ashland Way, down there. So you have to take into account, you have to have more trucks, you have to have more men.
Or contract haul it.
Or contract hauling, tipping fees at the landfill down there, and it can run you $50, $60 a month.
Now, I believe the city of Pikeville, and maybe Commissioner Booth could address this, the city of Pikeville a few years ago did a study that if the landfill shut down, what it would cost, and I think their estimate was $53 or $54 a month. Yeah, go ahead, you can just.
Yeah, seemed to me like it was around $55 a month for the residential garbage to be sent to, I can't remember if it was Ashland or London one, but that was what it was gonna cost them per resident.
In the city.
In the city, yeah.
So, I mean, we have a vested interest. My opinion, and this is just solely my opinion, is if you were to contract out our solid waste service, then the people after, you might contract out, have a written contract for a period of years, but once that's contract's over, the initial term, then you're going to be at the mercy of whoever's doing your solid waste service.
Correct. They can't haul it to Ashland no cheaper than we can, and so their rates is going to go up, and they're going to be a profitable business if they're going to do this thing, and they may look at higher than $55 or $60. You never know what rate they're going to set it at, because they ain't going to do it for nothing. People need to realize that.
Pike County Solid Waste its goal is not to generate a profit. Its goal should be to break even.
Right.
Take care of the equipment needs, the landfill needs, take care of the employees, and break even.
Yeah, it's a service to the taxpayers that they do deserve, but we need to operate on a balanced budget.
A private business that operated like solid waste has been allowed to operate would have been bankrupt a long time ago.
Yeah.
And if a private contractor ever came in, their goal is not going to be just to break even, it's going to be to make money.
Correct.
So I think we all have to do what we understand, that it's in the interest of every business owner and every resident of this county that we keep Pike County Solid Waste in operation. I believe the members of the commission share that opinion. We're going to look at these rates. We're going to schedule some, with permission of the court, we're going to schedule some special meetings around the county so that people who are interested, unfortunately, some of these rates will present a hardship to people, particularly on a fixed income. Our options are very limited, but we want to take input. We're not going to act on this today. We appreciate your laying this out for us. And are there any questions?
Let me make another point also. Now remember, we've got like $1 million deficit already, okay? Now, this $11 million that I was talking about raising does not take in consideration that $1 million deficit. What I was hoping for over the next 5 years in day-to-day operations are cuts and better collection that we can come up with this other $1 million. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so this 11 million is just like expanding landfill, purchase equipment, so forth, but it doesn't catch us up where we're supposed to be even.
Commissioner Roberts.
How many ton are we dumping in the landfill today, Bob?
Well, it will vary, but somewhere around 140 ton a day, right in that neighborhood. Did you see that much in the creeks?
One of the things I want to mention is before we took office, we had an opportunity to consult, to get information from a company that's, it's a huge waste management company, and they do business in some of the local counties. And the commissioners went down and met with this individual just to get information. And my recollection is that person said that to efficiently and to economically operate a landfill, that there needed to be 800 tons a day in terms of material going into the landfill. Was that Commissioner Robertson?
I think that's what he said, but Reggie was with us down there. Reggie knows a little bit about that too.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't recall the exact number, but it's far in excess of what we currently do. Far in excess.
The interesting thing that struck me is that the landfill that this company's hauling to is a landfill they own. Was that, and there's a lot of different communities from around Kentucky that have the garbage going in this landfill, that they said that landfill has a 100-year life expectancy. Our landfill, at the best, is 7 years. That landfill has 100 years. We're all going to be gone before it's filled up. So we've got to make a decision. Do we build a new landfill? I'm not sure that going to phase 6, and you've relayed to me that you're not sure that that's even economically feasible with the instability in the surrounding terrain where we've had slides and so forth. Or do we look at a public-private partnership? Do we look at an interlocal agreement with the city of Pike? Well, those are all things that we need to look at. The problem is, just for people who haven't listened to the last 2 court meetings or read one of the articles, could you just tell the people of the county commissioner how much money had been set aside by previous administrations to address the landfill problems and the equipment issues and the environmental issues that you've talked about?
There was supposed to have been, like purchase of equipment, 4 and 5% set aside, but there has not been not $1 to purchase equipment, nothing set aside to open a new landfill with or expand.
All right. Commissioner, you have anything else you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say one thing that you pointed out, like on our landfill taking in 140 ton a day, that's not enough that our landfill could be profitable, but it still costs the same to run that landfill as it would if it was good for 100 years. The same regulations we have to abide by, and so there's no way to really make it profitable, but the only thing that we can do is try to operate on a balanced budget and be a service to the public and people of Pike County, that they would have a place to place their trash. How does other companies make money? Well, they're closer to landfills. If we had to haul to Big Run, you're going to have to haul garbage from Papaw, Ashcamp, and the far side of the county. We got farther to go, and it cost us more to do so. And so it's just where we're located, and that's just the way it is. And I would strongly recommend that we would always keep a landfill in Pike County for our people, if at all possible. And in order to do that, we're going to have to operate on a balanced budget. So the only other thing, unless you have some questions, that I would add to that is when I was listening to the jailer speak here a minute ago, I have in the solid waste department, an 09 truck that I used to drive back before they bought this last batch of trucks. This truck is a 09 4x4 Silverado regular cab. It's got new tires on it, just barely. It's got over 100,000 miles, had some body work done to it. There's no rust on it. And I've kind of got that truck hid back over sitting there. If somebody needs it, that truck's available.
And I'll have the deputy judge get back in touch with you.
Bob, I got a question. Could we get some numbers on what it takes to run the landfill a year? Like what it's costing the county?
Frankie could answer that for you better than I could. I know it generates somewhere around $1.5 million a year the landfill generates, but that also goes into our operating cost, and we're still running $1 million deficit. Is that correct, Frankie?
I mean, is that counting payroll, that's everything, Frankie?
I would have to do a little bit of work to just break out the landfill from the rest of solid waste. We do charge their labor and the materials they buy and things like that specifically to landfill line items. So it wouldn't be any more than just to create like a department code for landfill and then code those line items to it, and then I can run some reports.
Okay.
Specifically for landfill. So it wouldn't be a big stretch just to break out landfill costs from the rest of solid waste.
Could that be parts,
Well, parts are in the maintenance garage fund. It's not part of solid waste because We basically transfer the money out of solid waste to the maintenance garage fund to cover those parts. But we can pull the numbers and then include that in the total, you know, to get like a comprehensive cost of what the landfill runs.
Okay, thank you.
Did you include the open tops or anything in that, Bob, on your,
On these,
like new open tops that you're gonna need?
on the, you're
on
talking
their
about
price?
purchasing the box or the money that it generates?
No, on the purchasing new boxes that you're gonna need.
No.
No, that was
It's
included.
not included in that.
Okay.
And, you know, if we're going to, say if you raise rates, then we're going to have, well, you could call purchasing equipment if you want to add that to that. But if you raise rates, we're going to have to produce or furnish good boxes, not boxes with the bottoms rusted out of them and lids falling off like we.
I know your boxes are shot.
So we would need to look at that too.
Let me just touch on that. When I was over yesterday at on Ford Mountain, the area where you park the dumpsters that the county rents out, a lot of those boxes simply don't look like they're fit to even rent.
They're not.
And the number that you gave, the $11 million, does it include any money for new? It doesn't include boxes, does it?
No.
So it makes no sense to me when you're generating revenue to help sustain solid waste by renting dumpsters that you wouldn't have an adequate number of dumpsters that are in a good state of repair to rent out. I mean, you're killing your revenue stream by doing that. So how many new dumpsters do you believe that the solid waste program needs? Because again, it's like not having somebody collecting occupational taxes when you don't have boxes to rent. It's a source of revenue that you're losing.
We run different size boxes. We run 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, and of course they, best I remember, the 40 yards runs around $7,000 to purchase one. Always in our budget, we had a line item of $30,000, and that's to purchase roll-offs with, plus what I try to do, I'd split it up. I'd buy a couple roll-offs, and then I'd buy 8 or 10 rear load dumpsters. The rear loads don't last over 4 or 5 years, they rust out. But I would love to be able to purchase 20 new roll-off boxes, say of an average of $5,000, the cost of them. So we would love to be able to do that and have good, decent boxes to put out there.
And if you had boxes, you would generate revenue.
Yes. I do get a few boxes occasionally on a recycle grant, but that's got to be used for recycle only. So when I was planning on doing that again this year, if we can get the state to approve it.
Anything else? Anyone else? Commissioner Robertson.
What's the different size boxes that we have at these businesses? I mean, how many different size of those do we have?
We have the rear loads you're talking about.
Yeah.
We have 8 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, and 2 yards.
So we also need to figure in the increase, what we need to charge for those size.
Yeah, and those runs anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a piece.
So we'd have to kind of figure in on that before we make the commercial price if we raise.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
One last thing. The dumpster that the lady has refused to give back to the county, I believe it was fenced in. Have we heard anything on that?
We turned that over to Commonwealth Attorney, and he was writing her a letter, and that's the last I heard on that.
Would you follow back up with him, and if we don't hear something before the next court meeting, would you ask him to go ahead and present that to the grand jury?
We'll do it.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. One last thing. I think the deputy judge has a question.
Bobby, just out of curiosity, all of these dumpsters are steel, is that correct? Painted, coated steel?
Yes.
Does anybody make an aluminum, or is that just cost prohibitive to have aluminum that would not rust?
I don't know of one. Say if you have them special built out of stainless steel, they'd last a lot longer, but it'd be more expensive.
Well, not stainless, but aluminum.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what- Okay. Just curious.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is approval of appointments to committees to the Pike County Fiscal Court. And as allowed, the fiscal court has previously organized committees, and some of the committees had a large number of people, and there were a large number of committees. And it's my experience that when you have a substantial number of people on a committee, it's hard to get people there, it's hard to get a quorum. It's also hard to get anything done. I have proposed 4 committees of the fiscal court to address the most imminent needs of county government. And those committees are the Roads Committee, the Solid Waste Committee, a county asset committee that would be over maintaining county property, county equipment, county vehicles, and it would include the maintenance garage, and also the finance committee that would help give guidance to the county in terms of financial oversight. My recommendations will be for the road committee would be Commissioner Jason Tackett, Chair, Member Commissioner Brian Booth, Deputy Judge Reggie Hickman, Treasurer Frankie Stacy, Road Supervisor Fabian Little, Maintenance Garage Manager Jeff Justice, and Road Foreman Ralph Blankenship and Ike Sanders. For the Solid Waste Committee, Commissioner Brian Booth, Chair, Commissioner Jason Tackett, Member, Reggie Hickman, Deputy Judge, Frankie Stacy, Treasurer, Bobby Mullins, Solid Waste Supervisor, Stephanie Clevenger, Solid Waste Office Manager, Larry Hensley, Landfill Manager. The Asset Committee, Commissioner Ronnie Robertson, Chair, Commissioner Jason Tackett, Member, Reggie Hickman, Deputy Judge, Fabian Little, Road Supervisor, Jeff Justice, Maintenance Garage Manager, Paul Williamson, Public Works Supervisor, and Bobby Mullins, Solid Waste Supervisor. Finance Committee, Commissioner Ronnie Robertson, Chair, Commissioner Brian Booth, Member, Judge Executive and Deputy Judge Executive, Frankie Stacy, Treasurer, Pam Vanover, Finance, Donetta Rutherford, Occupational Tax Data Manager, Stephanie Clevenger, Solid Waste Office Manager, Brian Morris, Jailer. Those are my recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the formation and appointment of committees of the fiscal court? Oh, I'm sorry. We've got one issue here. I'm going to have to strike. I'm going to have to strike myself from the Finance Committee because under the Open Meetings Law, we could only have 2 members of the court on any given committee because it would constitute a meeting of the fiscal court. So it will be Commissioner Ronnie Robertson, Chair, Brian Booth, Reggie Hickman, Deputy Judge, Frankie Stacy, Treasurer, Pam Vanover, Donetta Rutherford, Stephanie Clevenger, and Brian Morris. A good catch, gentlemen. And those are my recommendations. And is there a motion to create committees of the fiscal court and appoint the membership? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next matter on the agenda is approval of appointments to the Pike TV Board of Directors. Pursuant to the bylaws of Pike TV, it's my recommendation that Pike County Deputy Judge Executive Reggie Hickman and Pike County Commissioner Ronnie Robertson be appointed to serve on this board. Is there a motion? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next matter on the agenda is the first reading of the revised Pike County Administrative Code. I would ask the county attorney to please give a first reading to this and read the summary, and then I will attempt to summarize it as well.
In summary form, we have the administrative code summary. To the extent that this administrative code does not conflict with federal or state law, this ordinance by the Pike County Fiscal Court outlines the procedures and rules to be followed in administering the business of the Pike County Fiscal Court, outlines the powers and duties of the Pike County Fiscal Court, the parliamentary rules to be used in conducting meetings of the Fiscal Court, the powers and duties of the county treasurer and the clerk of the Fiscal Court, the procedures and rules to be used in the adoption of the county budget, the rules to be used in establishing various boards and commissions authorized or established by the Pike Fiscal Court, the powers and duties of the county judge, judge executive, the rules relating to the administrative organization of county government, the procedures and policies to be followed by the road, solid waste, community service, public works, and finance and administration departments, as well as other county government departments, units, and support offices, the policies and procedures governing fiscal court employees, including employees' discipline, the procedures to be used by the fiscal court for purchasing and procurement of goods and services, provisions to account for county property, limitations on the political activity of employees of the fiscal court, the Pike County Code of Ethics and other administrative procedures. Pike County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number blank will be an ordinance relating to the administrative code of the Pike County Fiscal Court effective January blank 2019, be ordained by the Fiscal Court of Pike County, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. And that will get into the specific provisions of the code.
Thank you. What basically we found when we started working last summer to go through the Pike County Administrative Code was that there were a lot of problems. The code had really not been updated. When we started looking at it, there were amendments, for instance, to the sick leave policy. When you got into the back of the administrative code, there were 4 or 5 amendments that dealt with the sick leave policy in and of itself. There were some ordinances amending the county code that didn't even have ordinance numbers on them. So what we attempted to do is correct some of the issues, condense some of the prior ordinances into a unified code, but it also made some substantive changes. And I'll walk through some of those. Before I go through this, there will be copies of this available to employees and members of the public in the judge's office upon request. Some of the provisions, there were not a lot of substantive changes. Section 120, we did change the meeting time. In the original code, it was the first Monday and the third Monday. That was changed to reflect what had actually been taking place for several years. Meetings of the fiscal court shall be on the first Tuesday of each month at 5:30 and the third Tuesday of each month at 10 a.m. There was one or two changes to the order of business. It also puts the county administrative code into compliance with Kentucky law in that, to clarify that an agenda is not required. The court will always attempt to operate with an agenda for regular meetings, but state law does not require an actual de facto agenda for regular call meetings, unlike it is with a special meeting. There's no substantial changes to the provisions dealing with the clerk of the fiscal court, court resolutions, the treasurer, or the budget. We did eliminate some of the, in the actual code book, some of the boards and commissions that had previously been disbanded by subsequent ordinance. There were no substantial changes to the Office of Judge Executive. We did in Section 310, this may seem like a minor change, but we felt that it would be important when the commissioner form of government was chosen. It can be somewhat confusing when you talk county commissioners versus department commissioners. For instance, Department of Finance Administration, Solid Waste, Road, Public Works. Those were all typically or historically referred to as commissioners. So what we've done in this revised administrative code is change the title from the appointed department heads from commissioner to supervisor. And the supervisor language was chosen because that's the statutory language for the county road supervisor. Pike County historically used the term road commissioner. The statute refers to it as a road supervisor in lieu of a road engineer. So we just used the same language, made some minor organizational changes. It specifies there will be one road crew for each commission district at a minimum, unless additional road crews are authorized. We're not making any changes to the number of road lots because of the geographic size of the county. So we are authorizing 6, but we wanted to make that consistent with the prior language. Essentially, there will be some changes to the road department in terms of the coverage area, so we don't have people driving all over the county in gerrymandered districts that had previously been the basis of the road lot system. We also changed, at the request of Ms. Thacker, we changed the Department of Social Services to the Department of Community Services. And when she requested that change, it was for something I hadn't really thought about. Her office gets a lot of calls from people who are trying to reach the state social services office for social workers or dependency, neglect, and abuse cases and so forth. So when the new phone listings come out, hopefully it will reduce the number of people who are mistakenly calling her office. No real changes in the road department. No substantial changes in the solid waste, public works, or community services department, except for the change in the terms. No real changes in the Department of Finance and Administration. Essentially, we did put a provision in here that nothing can be purchased unless it goes through the Office of Purchasing and the Purchasing Director, who will give us an update here in a few minutes. We also clarified in this code that the disciplinary provisions apply to administrative and hourly personnel alike. There's no real change to the probationary period or the job classifications. It does clarify that the longevity pay increase provision is being eliminated. However, employees who are already receiving longevity pay will continue to receive that as part of their base compensation. Doesn't make any change to the sick leave policy, although we, as previously mentioned at one of the other meetings, I do believe that we will see some changes in the sick leave policy because of the impact that the current policy has had on insurance premiums and the loss ratio. As I said at one of the last meetings, that for every last year, for every $100 that the county paid in health insurance premiums, the insurer paid out $204.05. That's why the county's insurance premiums for health insurance for the employees are so high. We do need to take a look at that. The biggest issue that it addresses will be for absenteeism and tardiness. If a worker has more than 2 unexcused absences, they are subject to suspension or termination. If they're late to work more than 3 times, likewise. It makes one change that it allows the county to implement a direct deposit program. It may not save the county a whole lot of paperwork, but it would. One of the issues that's been brought to my attention is that when county employees get their paychecks during work hours, then you have people going to the bank and trying to do personal business on county time. It does specify that the paychecks will be issued at the close of business on the last day of the pay period. So that way we're not going to have county workers doing personal business on county time. It also strengthens the reprimand and suspension provisions as well as the termination provisions for county employees. It allows disciplinary suspensions and terminations in part, employee who has more than 2 unexcused absences or being tardy 3 times. An employee having received 2 written disciplinary warnings as specified by Section 482, insubordination, for instance, failing to follow orders, legitimate orders of a supervisor, use of controlled substances during work hours except by prescription from a licensed healthcare provider, or consuming alcoholic beverages during work hours, reporting to work while intoxicated or impaired by any substance, being intoxicated or impaired by any substance, or violation of any drug testing policy adopted by the fiscal court, suspension in anticipation of the result of investigation of charges of misconduct, malfeasance, or misfeasance, making obscene, vulgar, or discriminatory statements or gestures to any person, use of court-owned vehicle, property, or equipment for personal use, abuse of or failure to perform routine maintenance on county vehicles, property, and equipment, falsification of any document, including but not limited to pay records, timesheets, and any and all other documents kept or maintained by the fiscal court, failure to comply with safety or workplace discrimination or sexual harassment policy adopted by the court, traffic violations as a result of unsafe or improper operations of county-owned vehicle or county equipment. And it's a quite a long list of issues that will put some teeth into the administrative code in terms of employee discipline. It makes one change to the employment procedure for hourly workers, in that it allows outside individuals not presently employed by a fiscal court to apply for jobs. It continues to give current county workers a hiring preference in filling a position, but it would be my recommendation that the county be able to take applicants from other individuals outside to try to bring new blood into the county workforce. That's essentially the provisions that have been made. I have talked to Commonwealth Attorney Bill Sloan. I'm going to get a copy of the ethics code to Mr. Deskins in his office, and to look at it and see what recommendations they would suggest in terms of tweaking the county ethics code to make it to increase transparency and also to tighten up any loopholes that they might recognize. So that would be a summary. If there are any questions from any members of the court, I'd be happy to answer those. This matter will be on the agenda. Now that it has had the first reading, it will be on the agenda subsequent to being published pursuant to KRS Chapter 424 relating to notice. And if it's been published by that time, it will be adopted. Or there'll be a motion for adoption at the next fiscal court meeting. We'll make it the regular fiscal court meeting so we can get the notice done. So the next order of business is the awarding of bids. Is there anything under that order of business that needs to be addressed, Ms. Vanover? Okay. We have nothing on the agenda for that item of business. So the next thing on the agenda will be the Pike County Road Supervisor's Report. Mr. Little, would you come over here, find a microphone that's going to pick you up? So we have you on here for your supervisor's report and also the approval of the Pike County Commissioner's recommended road maintenance list.
Okay. Well, the first few days I've spent basically answering phone calls and checking out requests for road work. I can list some of those I've been on. Would be the Big Blue Springs, Pigeon Roost, the Lover's Lane, Narrows Branch, Pinson Fork, Bent Mountain Road, Little Creek, Kelly Mountain. That's just the name, just to give you a little idea of what I've been doing the first few days.
Do you have a summary of what the county road department, the different lots have done over the last week?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Because what we want you to do is at every meeting is to give the people of the county an idea of what each road lot has done in the preceding, or since the preceding regular court meeting.
Okay, it's going to be lengthy.
We have all the time in the world. Right. Go ahead.
Okay, and for Lot 1, and that would be the Johns Creek area, They've dipped the creek at Ray's Branch. They have, hold on just a second, excuse me. They moved a slide in the Sycamore of Lower Johns Creek. They pulled ditches on Wolf Mountain, Wolf Branch. Pulled ditches at Sycamore Mountain. Tree removal, brush removal from Lower Brushy. Pulled ditches on Lower Brushy. We have pulled ditches again on Lower Brushy. They pothole patch on Open Fork. Moved a slide on Curry Branch. Moved a slide on Open Fork. And moved a slide again on Lower Brushy. And that would be all for the Lot 1. Okay, Lot 2, we have, they have shouldered the road in Blaze Branch, shouldered the road in Bear Fork. They've cleaned brush out of the creek in Newsom Branch, dipped a slide out of the creek in Straight Fork of Little Creek, moved rock on Turkey Pen, open drains on Orchard Branch, cleaned up slide from Fleming's Branch, cleaned slide out of the road on Dorton Hill, cleaned up trees on Sycamore Branch, cleaned up slide on Sugar Camp Branch, replaced drains on Fleming Branch. They stacked rock at the end of a drain on Fleming's Branch, Hall Creek gravel. They've pothole patched in Little Creek, and they have spread gravel on Pine Fork. Now Lot 3, they've cleaned up a slide on Grassy, cleaned up a slide on Rattless Creek, pulled ditches on Big Branch, removed trees from Beaver, and unstopped drains on Dix Fork. District 4, we've had cleaned up trees, a fallen tree on Allegheny, pulled ditch lines on Dry Fork of Shelby, cleaned drains out on Sage Branch, cleaned drains on Mills Branch, pothole patched at Shelby Yard, pulled ditch lines at Forge Branch. We've cleaned drains in Bowling Fork. And they graded and gravelled Bowling Fork. At Lot 5, he has removed mudslide at Peter Creek of Blackberry, removed mudslide at Hurricane of Stopover. They've pothole patched in Meat House of Johns Creek. They've cleaned drains on Hurricane of Johns Creek. They have put up or installed road signs at King Branch. And they've cleaned slides up in, I think, at Owens Branch. And then in Lot 6, installation of a drain at Allison Heights, pulled ditches and open drains on Mullins Fork, fixed a break on Mullins Fork, pulled ditches on Davis Branch, cut a tree out of the road on Thornsbury Hollow, repaired drain at Acres Branch, pulled ditches at Narrows Branch, shouldered a road at Narrows Branch. And that's been since the 7th.
All right, thank you. Next matter is, do you have a list of the commissioners' recommended road maintenance projects? The county commissioners' recommended road maintenance projects?
I do. Okay, for Lot 1, the recommended work would be the removal of a slide at Hurricane of Brushy. It's a removal of brush and a stump at Panther Branch. It's to fix a break and clean ditches at Stanley Fork, at the right fork of Brushy. To pull ditch lines in Big Branch, grade and gravel roads on Stanley and Stacy Lane, and to pull ditch lines on Lower Brushy. For Lot 2, be slide removal in Straight Fork of Little Creek, be slide removal and repair of a road on Old Dorton Hill, repair of the road that is set down on Kelly Mountain Road, pull ditches on Hopkins Fork, pull ditches and dip the creek at Sugar Camp Branch, and to pull ditches and dip the creek in Blaze Branch. For Lot 3 would be pull ditch lines in Abner Fork, pull ditch lines in Big Card, pull ditch lines in Big Hackney, ditches in Cantrell Road, ditches in Island Creek, to ditch Little Hackneys, to ditch Little Card, to pull ditch lines in Motley Fork, to pull ditch lines in Jones Fork, and to pull ditch lines in Dix Fork. For Lot 4, we would have to pull the ditch lines in Dry Fork of Shelby, the ditch lines in Lick Branch, Pine Fork, Right Fork of Dry Fork, and Thacker Road. To clean drains on the CC Road, pull ditch lines on Little Branch, pull ditch lines on Jackson Branch, Dave Hollow, Right Fork of Jackson Branch, Dry Fork, Right Fork of Dry Fork, and Hurricane Branch. At Lot 5, we would have the pothole patch in Meat House, to clean drains and pull ditches on Sunshine Lane, to clean drains and pull ditches on Left Fork of Bevins Branch, clean drains and pull ditches on Bevins Branch, to pothole patch Big Blue Springs, clean slide out of the creek on Hurricane of Stopover, pull ditches on Lover's Lane, unstopped drains on Upper Blackberry, dip the creek on Lanes Branch, dip the creek at Owens Branch, and pull ditches and dip the creek on Hurricane. For Lot 6, we have repair the bridge at Pigeon Roost, clean out drains at Clyde Hankins Drive, clean out drains at Thacker Hollow, clean up brush and tree removal at Narrows Branch. A tank car needs repaired at Stratton Fork, clean out ditches and drains on Left Fork of Rock House. Bent Mountain Road has to have some creek gravel. Clean ditches and drains at Pinson Fork. Pothole patch on Waters Fork. Pull ditches and drains on Lick Branch. And to pull ditches on Mullins Fork. Shoulder the road on Chadwick Road and install a drain on Allison Heights.
And did you have Commissioner Tackett's recommended road work list?
Was that for?
We have, let me hand you this right here. This is Commissioner Tackett's list of the work that he has requested, and,
Yeah, that was already,
okay.
I'd already.
All right, thank you. Those are the recommendations for road maintenance. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve the road maintenance list by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next order of business is a treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy, you are up.
To complete the December 31st financial statements, I had to make the following inter-fund transfers, and I would like authorization for the transfer of $420,000 from the general fund to the road fund, to transfer $166.04 from the general fund to the forestry fund, transfer $300,000 from the general fund to the road fund, and to transfer $140,000 from the road fund to the maintenance garage fund.
Now, I had an opportunity to spend some time with you this week on this issue, and you gave me a very detailed explanation of why these fund transfers have to be made. I think it's important for the people to understand that the county has two checking accounts. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a consolidated account, which is basically every other fund except for the solid waste fund. Solid waste has its own checking account. So in the consolidated account, there is the general fund, the road fund, jail fund, LGEA, which is the local government economic assistance fund. We have a federal fund, a forestry fund, and a maintenance garage fund. All those are actually into one checking account. But when you report to DLG, each fund has to have a positive cash balance. So as you spend money and expenses, some funds you have to transfer. It's not an actual cash transfer from one checking account to another, but it's an actual cash transfer from one fund to another, to make those funds have a positive cash balance each quarter. And like I said, solid waste is its own checking account, and they, their cash balance is their cash balance for their fund. Pike County is one of the few counties in the state that has a consolidated account as far as checking accounts. I think there's maybe only like 3 or 4 other counties that have a consolidated account. Every other county has a separate checking account for each fund that they maintain. But where the Pike County has so many funds, it would be really monotonous to write that many checks out of that many funds on a monthly basis. So that's why they did the consolidated account.
Now, when I came up to your office, and my last statement, or the statement I made in the last court meeting, that after the December 27th payroll, the county had about $100,000 on hand. One of the prior magistrates took exception with that. I have here the financial statement that you and I both signed yesterday that will give the financial condition of the county up through December 31st. And this will be available in the judge's office upon request from anyone in the media, any member of the public's entitled to this. The total unencumbered cash balance, and when I say unencumbered, will be where purchase orders, after purchase orders that had already been authorized were paid. The total I had is $97,713.67 in all of the consolidated account. And then the balance for solid waste would have been $171,985.14. Is that correct?
Yes.
And these transfers are necessary to move money around in order so those funds will actually balance.
Yes.
Okay. It would be my motion that we authorize the following interfund transfers. Transfer $420,000 from the general fund to the road fund. Transfer $166.04 from the general fund to the forestry fund. Transfer $300,000 from the general fund to the road fund. Transfer $140,000 from the road fund to the maintenance garage. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Excuse me.
Authorize payment of the expenditure approval list dated January 14th, 2019, and any other utility and telephone bills received before checks are run.
As you know, earlier today, I asked when we could defer approval of the expenditure list without being late under the auditor's guidelines. And the reason is I know you've been working trying to get the financial report done. We appreciate that. We appreciate you having it done by the report by today before the court meeting. I have not had time to go over the list of expenditures, and this list is 34 pages long. And it would be my motion that we pass over this item of business either to the next court meeting or probably a short special court meeting in order to authorize these. Commissioner Booth has already found one issue. We're paying a phone bill for the solid waste for the landfill at the scale house. It was $154, and the phone's not worked up there for 2 months. So that's something we need to look at. I'm not sure if it's been reported or not, but when I was up there yesterday, they advised me that they don't even have a phone working in the scale house. When would be the latest date that we could authorize these and get payment made in accordance with the auditor's guidelines?
Usually the general guidelines that we normally follow is to have all the bills paid no later by the 25th of each month. What normally starts to happen is if you don't have them paid by then you start to incur a lot of late penalties on your utility bills, like your power bills and your water bills. They'll start charging you late penalties.
So we're going to have, it's going to be my proposal here in a few minutes, that we have a special fiscal court meeting on Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019 in Phelps at the fire department to discuss the solid waste issues. Would that be timely if we put it on that agenda and approved them in the special court meeting?
That'd be fine.
Okay. I'll ask my staff to go ahead. Do we have a motion to pass over this item of business so we can look at it? A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. We're going to pass over this. Motion sustained. We'll put this on the agenda for the January 22nd, 2019 special court meeting that will be, assuming it's authorized, at the Phelps Fire Department. If not, then we will have a quick court meeting one day next week to get that done.
Acknowledge receipt of the Sheriff's 2550 report for December 2018. The county clerk gave her 2550 report out herself this morning.
Yeah, I'm not, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say the sheriff gave me his 2550 report and I handed it out.
Let me see if you got it, Jamie. I'm not sure that I have that. I don't have that. I have overlooked. Mr. Stacy, did you have any issues with this 2550 report? Any concerns, comments?
No, Debbie in the sheriff's office had brought it down to me, and even though it says he's got a minus $491,000, there's a lot of fees posted, a lot of fees for sheriff collection fees that posted at the beginning of January once she closed out the month of December on property tax collection. So she said that number will go way down on the January report. No, I've seen his run. I've seen this number run like minus 700,000 before, but as he collects property taxes and those fees post, then it'll go back to a positive balance. So I don't have any issues.
Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the sheriff's 2550 report for December 2018?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett, second. Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's quarterly financial statement ending December 31st, 2018. And I'll also, after the court meeting today, submit that to DLG. It's due today to the state.
Would you just walk us through, and this is a rather lengthy report, would you explain to the members of the court and the public, it appeared that the expenditures and revenue at the halfway point of the fiscal year were tracking fairly well.
Yeah, when we were looking at the percentages yesterday, they were tracking in the upper 40%, so like the mid to upper 40% for the budget for the year. The thing that the court has to remember is the expenditures are tracking about 48%. The revenues are tracking around 48% as well, but that includes all the surplus money for like that surplus carryover. All that's amended into those revenues as a surplus from a prior year. And then also, that kind of skews the revenue percentage for the year because that's like $1.7 million that you're plugging in that you said you've taken in revenue when it's actually just a cash carryover. So really and truly, that 1.7, you should realize it somewhere down in the second half of the fiscal year. So even though, if you look at your revenue and your expenses, even if they're a wash at like 48%, you've still amended 1.7 million carryover into that revenue to get that to balance. You know what I mean?
So it's sort of like this. If you didn't have the carry forward.
If we didn't have the carry forward at June 30 and had zero balance to plug in as a surplus number, you would be 1.7 million short through December.
And those are one-time monies.
Yes, that's one-time money.
And I just want to make the point for people watching this. When you deal with non-recurring revenue, one time, you go out and you buy a lottery ticket and you win $5,000 on a scratch-off ticket, non-recurring revenue, not likely to happen again. If you take out that money, we're 1.7 million short at the halfway point.
You might be a little bit more short than that because there was also a payment from the 911 board for a prior year that was $358. Was it $58,000? We collected. It actually posted in I think it was November. But in that 6 months, that was one-time money as well. So
when we do the, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was about to say it could very well be looking at like $2 million if you don't count that one-time money or the carryover.
Is that how much we would be short? It would be roughly $2 million.
Right.
So when we do the next budget, we're going to have to make an allowance for the fact that those non-recurring revenues are not going to be there in the next budget.
Right, and I know you know, you can just look at the transfers that we've made into solid waste. We only budgeted to transfer solid waste $1 million for the whole fiscal year. And, you know, halfway through the fiscal year, you're already at 1.1 million. Solid waste still has to transfer to the maintenance garage to pay for some parts. I haven't transferred money out of solid waste to the maintenance garage fund yet. So, you know, even if the other funds hold solids, you know, solid waste is still is going to need some cash that I've transferred in that I don't know if I can get back out back to the general fund for other funds. Because if you notice, when we did the interfund transfers, the general fund supports all the other funds that can't make up their expenses with their revenue.
Road fund.
Road fund, the jail fund, they're all subsidized basically by the general fund revenue. And if that money doesn't come back, then I'll have to, you know, I'll have to look to see what I have to do to get the general fund to balance.
And it potentially cuts between now and the end of the fiscal year.
Right. And I know you've made some cuts and things like that, but the end of January, you know, we're looking at another round of occupational net profit, and we're looking at the third quarter of coal and mineral. Like I said, there's not many big ticket revenue items left in the fiscal year other than property tax and things along those lines. Solid waste still has coupons to go out. They take a lot of their revenue in the February. So, you know, those are numbers I'll have to pay attention to as far as collections and things like that to see how those revenues hold up for the second half of the fiscal year. But cash on hand, like we were talking about the consolidated account and the 7 funds that are inside of it, if you add up the cash in all those 7 funds at the end of December, I only had $144,000 in the consolidated account. Solid waste had $172,000. That's why in December I had to transfer $100,000 back from solid waste just to get consolidated to have a positive cash flow.
But that $144,000 would have to be reduced by the amount of purchase orders that had already been authorized to be spent.
Yes.
And I think my math.
But that's what I'm saying. Cash in bank that we hadn't written checks for at the end of December was $144,000, and then you have to back off basically $46,000 worth of encumbrances off of that.
So roughly $98,000.
$90,000 after if you pay all your bills through the end of December.
All right. One other item that's not on, well, we'll deal with it in a second. Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's quarterly financial statement ending December 31st, 2018?
Motion.
I'll pick one. We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett to approve the treasurer's quarterly financial statement ending December 31st. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize the terms of a proposal from Coalfield Auctions Incorporated to auction off the Majestic Elementary School.
Okay. Can you explain this, please?
We actually have the auctioneer here, Dustin Ramsey. I saw him back there earlier.
Dustin, would you come on up, please? And
but basically, the cost to the county would be a 6% buyer's premium. Well, a 6% premium, and then the buyer would pay a 6% premium on what the bid price of the school would be. And then the county doesn't have to pay any advertising cost or anything like that. That's all included in the percentage, the premium.
Would you please introduce yourself to the folks that might be watching this?
Yeah. My name's Dustin Ramsey with Coalfield Auctions. I've been with the county here since about 2015. I've done 2 auctions for you so far. One was in 2016. We raised $148,000, heavy equipment auction at Ford Mountain. Then I did one back in August. We did $119,000, which was lesser monies, but we had lesser pieces of equipment. We had a 28% increase on money per item, so it's done well for us. But this is the first time that we've been approached to do a commercial or residential auction, and which is something that we do pretty well with. So, you know, we'd like to have an opportunity to do this for you. In my proposal, we would be charging the county 6% of total sales within 60 days once the sale's complete, and 6% would be charged to the buyer, and that would cover all expenses. That would cover, of course, I'm not charging you for advertisement as we usually do, $1,000. I'll be paying my real estate broker out of this and any other fees that we might have in correspondence doing the auction. And so it'd be 12% overall, 6% coming from county, 6% coming from the buyer the day of the auction.
Now, I have a question for the treasurer, the county, assistant county attorney. Do we have to advertise this as well?
Auctioneer, my take on it would be the hiring of a professional service, just like a CPA or an accountant or a lawyer or engineer.
That's really not my question. My question is, under the procurement code, we don't have to bid hiring professional services. The question I have is, do we have to advertise this under Chapter 424 since we're selling private or public property?
He will be doing advertising with our name on the.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We'll look at that to make sure we're compliant.
Yes, we can check his flyer, but like his flyers for the heavy equipment auctions have had the county seals, the county's address and name and everything all over them when he advertises those. I'm sure. I haven't seen a flyer or anything yet about what his advertisement would look like, but it would include the county's name as part of the advertising.
And we're going to get the assistant county attorney to look at just what we have to do in terms of the notice requirements. So as soon as you can, get the draft of the advertisement for us. Let us look at it. One other question I had in your proposals, you said, he says, we suggest no reserves be put in place due to the limitation of interest with possible bidders. An absolute auction is highly suggested in the event that the auction is held with a reserve and the reserve is not met. The auctioneer will implement a $1,000 no sale fee for time and troubles.
Yes.
I think we've already voted to do that, but since it's laid out here in your proposal, is there a motion to authorize the terms of the proposal set forth by Coalfield Auctions relating to the sale of the Majestic Elementary School? We have a motion to authorize the terms of the proposal by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? I do want to just briefly mention, I had someone call me, or text me a long text, and say, well, you know, why don't you look to try to do something with the jail? It would be a great, you know, for some type of jail industries. Simple fact of the matter is we can't get additional bed space according to the jailer. We don't have the money to try to take the school building, remodel it, and try to do something like that. I'm not aware of any grant money that you could even do something along those terms, but it's costing the county a lot of money, and it's my opinion that we need to make reductions in expenditures as soon as we can. So if there are no questions from any of the members, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
That's all the business I had.
Well, there's one other item I want to bring up here in your order of business. You have found a mistake in relation to the flex funds the county receives for blacktop. We may have mentioned that in one of the prior meetings. The flex funds are state dollars that we get for blacktop work, and the county pays for it, if I'm correct, and then we submit the documents to Frankfurt to get reimbursed.
Yes.
And you found 2 years that the prior administration did not seek reimbursement for those funds.
Yes. There's
Tell the folks in the county how much the county spent on asphalt that the prior administration did not ask to recoup the money from Frankfurt.
I'm thinking off the top of my head around $720,000. I don't remember the total of the contract.
The number I looked at was $762. It would be almost enough to pay the county's liability insurance.
That sounds about right. I know it was 700. Pam went and pulled all the invoices, canceled checks, and purchase orders, and we were putting together the packet to ask for reimbursement back on that agreement. I know the agreement was at like $760,000, but the total of our actual expenditures, I don't know if they spent every dollar of that agreement, so it may be a little bit less than that, but I haven't totaled those up yet. But it was I'm thinking $720,000 to $730,000 that we actually spent that we haven't got reimbursed back for yet.
And all we had to do, and I say we, all the county had to do was send the paperwork to Frankfurt, and they would send us $720,000 or $730,000.
Yes, it's already been an executed contract. It was a 16-17,
17-18
contract that got rolled over into a 17-18 flex fund because I guess Mountain Enterprise was tied up the plants and they couldn't get the blacktop done that year, so they rolled it over into another 2-year contract. And then at the end of that 2-year, 17-18 year contract, they just finished some of that work as well, but yeah, that's 2 years of asphalt that the county's paid out that we haven't been reimbursed back for yet.
How did you catch that?
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, when we took over in June, or when I stepped in that position in June, I was kind of, you know, I never got trained as treasurer, and you know, I stepped into a lot of catch-up work I had to do to get everything caught back up. So, you know, in the process of looking through the last, well, basically since June of 2015, getting all the financial statements and stuff ready, that's when we saw that these revenues haven't been, the airport board reimbursements, the 911 reimbursement, the flex fund money. You know, we're still looking to see every dollar that the county spent that, you know, we're going to ask for that money back for, but like I said, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of, you know, and you're having to do this on top of your normal day-to-day work as well, so.
I'm going to I've already made one phone call. I'm going to make sure, the only concern I have is whether those prior fiscal years have been closed out in Frankfurt and the money's not there. So, having served in the legislature, if there's money carried over from one year to the next, it's usually swept up, or one biennium to the next, it's usually swept up. So I'll continue to follow up to see, but you know, it's really inexcusable that the county potentially lost $762,000 or 700. You know, the contract price I think was $762, but $720 or $730,000. When all they potentially had to do was just submit the documents to Frankfurt. So we're going to continue to work on that. We wanted to bring that to your attention to let you know that that's an issue that's come up. Hopefully we can get some help and recapture that money.
There is also a 2018-19. It's the current fiscal year contract. It's about $250,000, I'm thinking. All the districts have finished their blacktop except for District 1. They had some roads that they had to drill some steel on that were part of that flex fund money. And then as soon as the blacktop plants open in the spring and they finish those 3 roads in District 1, then we'll ask for reimbursement for the current fiscal year's flex funds.
And I'll update the court at the next meeting about what I find out in terms of the $720,000 or $30,000 that needs to be reimbursed. Thank you, Mr. Stacy. The next matter on the agenda is executive session. We need to enter into executive session, discuss personnel and possible litigation. I would ask the Assistant County Attorney Kevin Keene to read the applicable Kentucky Revised Statutes.
Judge, we need to enter executive. Sorry, Judge. We need to enter executive session as authorized by KRS 61.810, specifically subsection C to discuss pending or proposed litigation, and subsection F to discuss matters regarding an individual or specific employee with regards to personnel.
It is my motion, or it's my suggestion that we enter into executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion to enter into executive session by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. A second by Commissioner Robertson. Not a debatable motion, so we will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. We don't expect this is going to take very long, so we'll be done with this as quickly as we can. Thank you. Okay, let the court come to order, and we need a motion to adjourn from executive session. Is there a motion? A motion to adjourn from executive session by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, no. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next order is authorization for personnel decisions and approval of salaries. Mr. Boehner, would you please read my recommendations?
Yes, Judge. The following item is up for approval. It is approval to hire Scott Mills temporarily as a custodian at the courthouse at a 2H rate of pay not to exceed 28 hours a week.
We have a contract with probation and parole where they rent the third floor space that we have to maintain that space pursuant to the contract. Right now, there's no custodian taking care of the Hall of Justice, and we have to put someone back in. We're hiring Mr. Mills prospectively at a 2H rate of pay. He will be working no more than 28 hours a week so that we can attempt to hold that item of cost down. And those are my recommendations, and that is my motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item is the Pike County Department Supervisors comments. Do any of you all have any business to come before the court? Mr. Mullins, come before the court and pull up a seat.
Judges, next coming Monday is a holiday for the county employees. And there was always a question about picking up our solid waste after holidays. What I recommend is if all the people will put their garbage that's on the Monday route, if they will put it out on Tuesday morning and leave it the rest of the week, that our crews will be back and pick it up sometime within that week. But what I'd like to do is send a memo to each one of our supervisors, that with myself and the court, that it would be an agreed order that our employees are to double back and make sure they pick up everyone's trash one day next week, if that's okay with you all.
I believe that that is a great idea because, I brought up to you the fact that, last last year ago, Christmas was on a Monday. So, people on my creek went from December 18th to January 1st without trash pickup. It's one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure if there's a holiday that we go back out and get the trash so people aren't having to wait 2 weeks. I think it's a great idea. Is there a motion to authorize Commissioner Mullins to implement a program?
Make a motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson to authorize solid waste to run routes to pick up the garbage that would not be picked up Monday because the holidays are second. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
So I will give each supervisor a memo saying this was an agreed order and that they're to obey that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any other business to come? Commissioner Williamson, come on up and have a seat.
Judge, we've got an old office building, used to belong to Leo Murphy. We started dismantling it about a week ago, and it is not feasible to try to get somebody in to move it off the lot. We won't put it on the road lot at Belcher, but it's too far gone. And my suggestion would be us take a road department up there and just tear it down and haul it off to the landfill.
Is that something that the road department can do, Commissioner Supervisor Little?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We'll work with him. We'll figure out a date.
I would make a motion to authorize the Public Works and the road department to dismantle the old office trailer that had served as the office for District 3 Magistrate. Is there a second? Second. I have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Utilities on that building, have they been disconnected, and what's the status on payments and all that?
Yes, everything's been disconnected, and the telephone's supposed to be disconnected first this week. So everything's off.
Frankie, are we paid up current on utilities and everything?
For the Magistrate 3
Yes.
office? Yeah. The only question I had, has anybody let the property owner know that we're not going to be renting that anymore? Anybody gave him notice?
No, I have not. I really don't know who the property owner is.
Because we're renting the lot that trailer was sitting on. We need to give him formal notice that we're not going to.
I have just a question. Why, if the prior court made representations to the people of this county that they were shutting down the magistrate's offices, did they continue to pay rent and utilities on an office that had been closed? They did basically the same thing in the District 1 magistrates.
Right. I don't know.
I mean, was the office even being used?
Yes, he was using it.
So when the people of the county were told that those magistrates' offices were closed, that's not quite true.
No. Not the District 1 was, but we were still paying utilities on it.
And paid rent up until this summer.
Yes. We've tried to get it off for a couple of years.
Can you contact the property owner for us and advise them? Do we know if there's even a written lease agreement on the property?
That lease has been there since I've been employed with the county, so
How much do we pay for that a month?
Would be, I think we pay $200 a month for the lot, a lot rental, and then like the building was ours.
Paul, why don't you talk to the owner, tell him we're going to be moving the trailer.
I think he lives there beside where the office was, between the post office and the office.
What is his name? You know?
I'm not for sure.
I'm thinking it's James Justice.
I think he is a justice.
Yeah, James Justice Jr., if I remember the.
I'll get in contact with him.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, Paul, was there any stuff in there that we could use anywhere?
We took off what we could save. We took the metal off the roof, and that's when we found out, where we wanted to move it, and it's not worth it. It's not, trying to get somebody to move it. And so we took everything off that we thought we could save,
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a second. Did we have a second on that? Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have Commissioner Thacker in Social Services, soon to be Community Services.
Soon to be. I promise I won't talk long because
Do you
I'm
feel
like
better?
I'm losing my voice.
I'm right there with you.
I have a center at Shelby Valley, and in that building, there's a daycare on one side and then the Senior Citizen Center on the other side. The Senior Citizens Program pays the utility bills, and then we send a statement to the lessee, Betty Tackett. And for some reason or other, in December of 2017, in January and February of 18, the statements didn't reach Betty. She had been working out of town, and so I just wanted to report to the court that the previous court, their last court meeting, had voted to send her a letter for the county attorney to send a letter, and Betty came in Friday and paid the bill in full, $3,616.
And that money will go back into
It
the
goes into
senior
the
citizen,
program.
senior citizens program.
Right.
Any other business?
No, sir.
Any other business from anyone? All right, the next item on the agenda is the comments from the Pike County Deputy Judge Executive.
I just want to inform the court that we are continuing to work with all the departments and all the supervisors, and I think we're making pretty good headway with forming a relationship and beginning to be able to deal with the questions that need to be answered in terms of how we're running our day-to-day business as a fiscal court. And I think it's going pretty well. The plans for this coming week is to have I think what will probably be the first time ever supervisor level meeting where we can all get in the conference room and begin to get our rolling action item list together that I have promised. We have been rolling along ourselves so fast that we haven't had a chance to stop, take a breath, and begin to formulate those lists. So that's the major plan for the coming week, and that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is Pike County Commissioners' comments, and we'll start with District 1 Commissioner Ronnie Roberts.
Judge, the only thing I've really got to say is I want to thank the lot crew, road lot crew number 1, Ike and Chris and Johnny and Bill for coming out Sunday and clearing the road over on Curry Branch of Brushy. And I know we don't praise those fellers enough, but they were out right there before Christmas with a slide over on Hurricane, and they've come out and done a good job, and I just want to thank them for that.
Anything else? Commissioner Tackett?
I've got a few things, Judge. One thing is what Dan talked about there. Miss Betty's been in the community up there in the District 2 area, plus in District 1 here, and she's done a lot of business with me, and she's always, it's been number one dealing business with her, and I just want to say that about her. Number 2, we've made a few trips to the garage over at Ford Mountain, and I want to brag on those guys, because from a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago when we'd stopped in over there to yesterday we'd stopped in, I'm tickled to death the way it's looking. They're moving. They got it cleaned up real nice, and so I'm proud of them. And I think that Ralph had went up and worked on the landfill road a little bit last week, wasn't it, Mr. Little? And I think Gary, I even got a call this morning on my way to work about the Belcher lot, how Victor Atkins Road, those people was bragging on how they've done that, and Noah Case just up in Little Creek and work. Just I give them a number one there the whole for the first week. So thank you all, and that's all.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think we're doing really well, getting started off on the right foot. I think our road lots is picking up. We seem to be working together really well, and once we get everything established and everybody realizes how everything's going to work and go along together, I think we're going to do real well. I think this court really, these people see a difference in this court.
Thank you, Commissioner Booth. One thing I wanted to do is I want to make sure that the people who are watching, if you need to reach your county commissioner, we're in the process of getting their office organized where there's a number that you can call. That number is 432-6230 is the number that right now it's going to the judge's office, but if you need to speak to Commissioner Robertson, Commissioner Tackett, or Commissioner Booth, you can also call 606-432-6247 for the Judge Executive's office. And why don't you guys go ahead and give them your cell phone numbers if you...
Give them all three. You want me to just give them all three?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will give them to you, but I can't remember them.
Okay.
You can give them. You can give them mine as well if you.
Jason Tackett, it's 606-794-3658. Ronnie Robertson's is 606-794-8185. Brian Booth is 606-794-5784. Let me find Judge Jones is 606-794-7281.
So those are our phone numbers. If you need something and you can't reach us through the judge's office or through the number into the commissioner's office, we want to be accessible. If you have a question, you need something, please reach out. If there's a road issue, please try to get that reported during normal business hours so that we can get it directly to the road commissioner. I want to take just a few minutes in the judge executive comments to thank the members of the commission. I can't explain to the people how hard that we've all worked and how much time has been put in over the last several months getting ready to take control of county government. And we wanted to be prepared. We wanted to be able to come in, be knowledgeable of the issues. This week, Commissioner Booth was out looking with several road issues. He spent quite a bit of time with the road supervisor looking at various issues. One of the main issues we have to get to do is get control of the expenses in the road maintenance garage. Try to figure out what pieces of equipment we're spending, throwing good money after bad, where we're spending more money than the equipment's worth. Commissioner Robertson has spent a lot of time working on that, along with Commissioner Tackett. I want to thank them for the hard work. Hopefully, when these committees start meeting, they'll be able to make recommendations at the next court meeting after the committees meet to make recommendations to the full court. Yesterday, it was quite shocking to see some of the condition of some of the solid waste vehicles when I was over there. We're going to continue to address this. These issues are not going to go away. We're not going to do what the prior administrations have done and kick the can down the road or bury our head in the sand and pretend these problems don't exist, because the problems affect every man, woman, and child in the county and every business. And for long-term stability, we have to find a solution to our solid waste issues. We will continue to be as open and transparent as possible. We encourage all members of the community to attend. It's been a long meeting. There's a lot of issues. Hopefully, after we get in here and get a better grasp of what's taking place, a better idea of our finances, once we get their county road equipment and vehicle fleet straightened out, we will, hopefully, the meetings won't last that long. Hopefully, the next meeting I won't have a sore throat and this cold that I've had for a couple weeks now. But we are going to have, and with the permission of the court, we are going to have 4 special called meetings, and I'll entertain a motion if one of the commissioners finds it appropriate. We want to have 4 meetings around the county. Now, we could have more, but time is of the essence. We have to be able to make a decision on the solid waste issues quickly. But we have tentatively scheduled 4 special meetings of the fiscal court, special call meetings. The first one will be at Phelps Fire Department on Tuesday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. The second will be Wednesday, January 23rd at Belfry Fire Department, the main station, at 6 p.m. The third one at Shelby Valley Volunteer Fire Department on Tuesday, January 29th, and then on at the Mouthcard Community Center on Thursday, January 31st, 2019. All will be at 6 o'clock. There may be some other items added to the agenda, but we want to take the fiscal court to the people. We want people, particularly elderly people, people who may have transportation issues, to at least have a meeting in their community or close by that they're able to attend. So if there are no questions, my motion, or I would entertain a motion to establish those meeting dates for special meetings to address the solid waste issues and potentially other issues.
The only question I have is on Wednesday, or church night for people. You reckon you should move that to Friday?
Well, we looked at that, and Friday isn't.
Is it?
Potentially could move it to Thursday, and that is a good point.
Well, Thursday, I think they have bingo.
The biggest problem is Tuesdays and Thursdays, yeah, so it may not be any other choice. So with that being said, those are the dates that we've identified to try to get this done before the February 1st, when we really have to start being ready to send the solid waste bills out. Is there a motion?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. That concludes the business before the court. We didn't have anyone sign up for public comment, and I would ask Brother Jimmy Dale Sanders to close us out in a word of prayer.
Remember all of us, who we are, and who we represent, as we watch right for the people of this county. Most of all, let's reverence you above everything we are. You're the only Savior of this world, especially for the laborers. Bless this court, this county, we have appointed this county. Let's them to work with the people. Let's not forget who we are, and let them not forget who they are. In Jesus' name, go with us and help us. Ask you in His name only.
Amen. Amen. There was one other matter of business I completely forgot about, and I hate to do this briefly. Mr. Stacy had one other matter that he wanted to take up, and that was he was wanting authorization to apply for a credit card that could be used for confirming motel reservations and other things that require a credit card. He has an application. Go ahead, just briefly.
Judge, I don't think that I need it for anything else other than just to reserve rooms for conferences and so on and so forth. A lot of the hotels in the past have done direct billing with the county, but now these major hotel chains are outsourcing their reservations. So before you can get through the reservation call desk, you have to book the room with a credit card. And the county doesn't have a credit card in their name.
And you used your credit card to do
I had to use my credit card for the last reservation, but I would just like permission to apply with Community Trust Bank to get a credit card not to exceed a $10,000 limit. I would keep it locked in the vault upstairs, and it would be, my sole use would be to reserve rooms for the fiscal court. The credit card really shouldn't have any associated costs because we would just use the credit card to hold the room, to hold the reservation, and then once we find out what the actual cost is, we can mail a check without actually having to pay the credit card off and actually get the card charged. But to hold those reservations through these third-party companies, they require a credit card. You can't even contact the hotels anymore directly. It's a problem I've had on trying to book the rooms for the last two conferences, and I don't see it getting any better. So.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion to authorize the treasurer to obtain a credit card under those specified terms. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. And thank you all for being here today. I'm sorry I got that one order of business out of line. And thank you all again for coming out. Appreciate the members of the media for being here. And if there's no other business to come before the court, is there? Commissioner Robertson?
We have to adjourn.
Yes, that was next. I was getting there. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
Being non-debatable, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.